Welcome, one and all, to a very special golden edition of Post-Game Clarity After Dark. Vincent has gone and cheated on his longtime girlfriend, but bumped into fate, rescuing a poor woman from a would-be stalker. While he's sending flirty texts and receiving nudes from one Catherine, he's placating and keeping secrets from the other. He'll have to climb his way out of this nightmare he dug himself into, but will he ever grow a spine and say the things that need to be said? Time will tell, but we won't be holding our breath. In this episode, Dave, Dork, and Drew will discuss the intricacies of Catherine's mechanics, delve deep into the inner psyche of Vincent, and if you're lucky, one of them might even rant about their favorite plot twist. So pour yourself a drink, sit back, and enjoy this post-mortem look at Catherine Full Body.
I was holding my breath the entire time. Oh, well done.
Yeah, that was great.
Well, now what do we do? Welcome, everybody, to episode 6 of the Post-Game Clarity podcast. I guess I'll talk normally now. I am Dork.
I'm Drew.
And I'm Dave.
And we're gonna do what I already said, but in a normal voice this time. Talk about Catherine Full Body.
Yay.
So Catherine actually released in 2011 on the PS3. It's developed by Atlas, the developer most known for their Persona series. And we have the perfect little test group here, as Drew and Dave both really like the Persona series, so they can offer their insight into all that probably throughout the whole podcast. So that's very cool. I won't be doing that as much because I'm not a big Persona fan. We actually are playing the Full Body re-release, which was released on the PS4 in 2019. And in it are a lot of new gameplay additions, a whole new character, and like 3 or 4 new endings, essentially. So this is the one we played, and I mostly just picked it because at the time, Drew didn't have a way to play Catherine Classic because they didn't have a PC that could probably run it, or a PS3. So I was like, well, I guess I'll pick Full Body, but Drew, you now do have a PS5, so you probably could have played it.
Yeah, I mean, I own both a PS3 and a PS5, but yeah.
Right, yeah, PS3, yeah. So either way, at the very least, Dave hasn't played this version of the game. He has played the original, so we have a person, Drew, who hasn't played any of this game. We have Dave, who's only played the classic version, so we'll get some insight into how all the changes affected him. And I really enjoyed this game overall, and I played both versions, so that's all of our perspectives in a nutshell.
Wait, hang on. Before we go any further, Dork, can we address the meme from last time? Can we address the Catherine Full Body of it all?
If you actually watched the whole Pikmin 4 video, which I have my doubts, you may have heard me say Catherine Full Body in a very strange way. Initially, I chose Demon Souls, and then a week later I kind of backed out of it because of a bunch of reasons. But I'll just say I'm like, actually, you know what? I want to go back and choose one of my other games, which was Catherine. And I think it was a good choice because it's a much shorter game, and it's an easier one to not drone on and on about, right? We're not going to drone on and on about this one, right, fellers?
Hopefully not.
I mean, Drew thought the Pikmin episode would only be an hour, so
we're gonna spend an hour tops talking about Pikmin.
I am never fucking saying that anything like that ever again. I fucking learned my lesson.
Well, because I've actually recently I went back and listened to our Metal Gear Solid episode, and we could have probably talked about that game for another 3 hours. There was a lot of stuff we didn't cover, so I'm now of the opinion that we should not put upper time limits on how we think things are going to go.
Guys,
true, except this one,
Catherine episode.
Yeah, incoming two-parter. So, a quick premise of the game. It's basically half like story-based, like visual novel, choosy, like you choose responses and you might get like a different ending. And half of it is a very unique puzzle game, which has gameplay mechanics exclusive to this, essentially. And the reason why I love the game so much, I really appreciate all the anime stuff, all of, like, you hanging out at the bar every day, and all of, like, the slice of life aspect to it. But at the same time, like, I don't think I've seen, like, this kind of, like, puzzle gameplay in any other game I've experienced. I'm not a huge puzzle game fan by any means, so that should kind of say a lot. I didn't really like view this as like, here's a puzzle game. It just hit like a different mark for me. How did you guys feel about the overall like gameplay of the Nightmare sections?
It's really fun. Like the base gameplay is really, really enjoyable as an action puzzle game. But you know what it kind of reminded me of? It reminded me of the Pushmo series on like the 3DS, and I think the last one they made was for the Wii U actually. But it's kind of like that, where like you grab stuff and like yank it out of a big structure to like try to climb up it. But this also has, it has a completely different focus because of the blocks, and also because your goal is to just continually climb higher so you don't die because the floor falls out from underneath you. But you want to know what else my stupid brain put together? Dare I say it, and you guys can get really mad at me for saying this, but
I'm ready.
Catherine is the Pikmin of Tetris. Okay?
What?
Because you play reverse Tetris as an avatar that's physically in the plane of existence, instead of like how Pikmin has Olimar instead of like a floating cursor. Does that make any sense, or am I going crazy?
No, this
I'm a
is
genius.
humongous brain. This is a revelation.
My cranium expands by the moment. I think something I was saying in our call the other day to do the multiplayer, I was saying that this is pretty well known as like Atlas gearing up to learn HD development so they could go ham on Persona 5. And I like that their solution was to build a game around a bunch of blocks. So you just make a bunch of cubes and put them in the playfield. So I think that that's really fucking funny. But the other thing that struck me about it is I think like in the later stages, because I really just wanted to finish the story and like because some of the puzzles got like really fucking infuriating for me, because this is my first playthrough ever and I was kind of struggling with some of the techniques. But I learned that the gap between normal and easy difficulty is like staggering. Because like I switched to easy mode and then everything was just like pull out one block and climb up it, and you have some stairs, and that's like everything you do in the easy puzzles. I think, and I think it really like kind of demotivated me after a difficulty spike. I'm sure that me and Dork will go off about. And then all the nights afterwards, anytime that there was like one really hard stretch where I kept like having to retry, I was just like, I can't deal with this anymore. But I think the base gameplay is really, really enjoyable and fun. And I think if I ever had the time to like, if I literally had the time to do like 5 playthroughs of this game back to back, I think that's how I would end up getting the most out of this game, because I could actually like memorize the techniques. But the gameplay at a base level, the gameplay is good. This is a good game.
Also, Drew, like as you were saying, because you related this to Pikmin, in that it was like a new way to visualize and control a classic, like genre essentially. I'm not sure if we could call Tetris a genre, but it's its own thing, right? Mm-hmm. In that same vein, much like, and I agree with you, but you're also saying that this was Atlas trying their hand at like trying to get better at making 3D stuff, or I should say HD stuff, right? Here's my thought then, right? I actually totally, like, not only do I agree with what you're saying about this whole like Pikmin comparison, I want to go even further and just go, holy shit, you are so right in that like Catherine feels like Pikmin, that it just makes me crave like these experimental projects, because like both Pikmin and Catherine like were not, the first like thing on their mind was not to make a cool new IP to get a whole bunch of money by any means. This was literally just, hey, let's try something a little different so we can work on X, Y, and Z or whatever. And they kind of like stumbled into making a very unique thing. And I would say Catherine and Pikmin are really unique, and fortunately Catherine didn't get any sequels, so you can fuck off with your goddamn like like sympathy bait, Drew. But who suffers? Pikmin fans.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair in this case. That's fair in this case. But when I did say that, I was talking about fucking Zelda.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, we'll talk about this later, I'm sure, but I mean, you can't really make a sequel to Catherine, unfortunately, at least narratively.
True. All right, Dave, how did you, because you said you were on easy this time, but you also, I think, were saying that when you played the first time, you had a lot of angry rage gamer moments at the end.
Yes, I was going to bring that up. It doesn't reflect well on me, but I was definitely a very different person back in 2011. I think it was pretty much, I beat Persona 4, and then like Catherine released very shortly afterwards, and I had my PS3, so it was like, well, this is fortuitous. I'll just buy this game. And now it's weird because I think I would have played on easy before my channel started. I played everything on their easiest difficulty, but my memory tells me that like from about the halfway point to the end of the game was just the hardest slog that just made me rage so much that I came away from the game not actually liking it. It was that bad, even though like the cutscenes and all that, at least at the time, I remember being into. Now this time around, I started the game off on its easiest difficulty called Safety. And then after night 2, I switched up to easy because I noticed that Safety didn't have any of the special blocks. And I thought, well, without the special blocks, I can't actually really discuss the gameplay with Dork and Drew because I'm not actually really getting the game as it's designed. Now, I guess you could argue that on easy, since Drew, you mentioned there's such a gulf between easy and normal. I mean, I probably saw all the blocks, but I didn't get them like as dangerous as they would be or used to their full potential. But I will say that I think I put this in chat like a week or so ago, how I wanted to talk about the easy difficulty, because for me, it actually made a perfect playing experience. It's not that I didn't get stuck. Actually, I got stuck quite a few times. I got stuck on 7-4, which I think everyone gets stuck on. That's the 10-story challenge. That actually took me like over an hour to do. I came back to it like next night. But it was actually, Dork, you really helped me a lot because I was watching Dork and Drew test out the multiplayer over Discord, and Dork was showing off his mastery of the Inazuma technique. I was trying to use, what the techniques I was using before, and again, I was getting nowhere. And then I said, well, this is like, it's 3 blocks straight up, so why don't I just try that? And yeah, after a few tries of fumbling around, I finally got there. But yeah, there were a couple levels after that where I would have to restart a couple times because this is something just for me. I prefer restarts over undos, even though I think the undo is really good if you've just got one or two, you've made like one mistake actually, especially. If you just made one error, the undo is great. But if you made a couple errors and you want to get back to a previous setup, I find it too cumbersome. So I actually prefer just hitting the restart and either going back to a checkpoint or going back to the start of the level and then just attempting the whole thing over again. As a whole, like the gameplay itself, you're right. I agree. There is nothing else like this. I really enjoy the ticking clock of it. The idea that you have to keep moving. There's danger below you. It feels really good if you can keep the multiplayer ticking along. By continually climbing upwards or making the right moves. Like that. It always feels really bad when that thing finally ticks down because you're either I found that would happen when I would go around like the back of the tower on the edges or something like that. So I like the ticking clock element so much that I actually only played Rapunzel like one time. I didn't like that version of the game that was more based on moves rather than time. So all the special blocks are really cool. I don't know if we're going to discuss them in detail or just talk about some of our favorites or maybe our most hated ones, but I find they really add to just how devious it can be. Although on easy, I will say that I never had to look at the screen for more than a few seconds before I kind of figured out what it wanted me to do. I think it was partially the memory of playing Catherine and just how infuriating that was that I didn't want to hit that again, right? Plus, on easy, I was just enjoying the flow of going through the levels and climbing. I think it was of sufficient challenge to engage me and to hit that state where I was immersed in the game. The bits where I got stuck were so far and few between, and definitely in the latter half, that it felt appropriate that, oh, of course I'm going to get stuck on this 10-story, giant behemoth. And there were a couple others which I'll try and bring to mind. But, it made sense that, oh yeah, this is a real stumbling block. It actually, the 10-story thing reminded me of right near the end of The Witness, there is a door which has 2 random puzzles that you have to solve, and they're different each time. So if you don't solve them in time, because there's a timer associated with them, you have to try again, and they'll be different. So you can't, either brute force them or memorize them. You basically have to prove that at this point you know the mechanics of the game well enough to proceed. And that's what the 10-story felt like to me.
Interesting.
Maybe we should talk about that since I'm just bringing it up. I don't know if I have too much more to say that's not prompted by further discussion.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up a few things first, though, if you don't mind, Dave.
Okay.
So going back to how you were saying you were able to, put in use the Inazuma that like you saw like me using, and also as like Drew was saying earlier too, if they had all the time in the world, they probably could have gotten a whole bunch of playthroughs and been able to master it or been able to master the game a bit more. I will say that totally affected me, and is why I think I was able to get through Remix in the first place. It's just after you start to get like the certain techniques down, it just becomes really, I'm not sure if I want to say easy, because it almost like sounds like I'm trying to put it down, because I'm not.
Oh,
it's
Mr.
really,
Big Shot over here.
No,
okay.
no. I'm not trying to say it in that way, but it's just it becomes, you're able to see like the puzzle space in like a much different way. Whereas like if you don't know these techniques, there's some situations where you go, literally, what am I going to do? And then after you learn like maybe even 1 or 2 techniques, you go, okay. Which is it's really cool, because it is a puzzle, but not really. You're always. I wouldn't even call this a puzzle game. It almost kind of feels like an action game in a sense, just because you are like engaging with an opposing force in a way.
There are other sheep that can knock you off if you're not careful.
And those ants. That was weird.
We'll get to all that soon. Don't worry. But like, do you have,
we'll
do you
get
guys have
to that
anything
soon.
to say about like the actual like learning like techniques side of things?
Yeah, something I was thinking about while I was writing last night is, so you get the techniques every time you finish a stage. You get to hang out with sheeps that wear costumes that you can correlate to people in the real world, but we'll get to that later. But like you sit down and you're like, dude, I came up with this freaking sweet idea. And they're like, dude, me too. Let's pool our shit together so we don't fucking die in this nightmare. And then the sexy tutorial guy comes up and he's like, this is this technique and here's how you do it. Here's an MP4 file of how to move these blocks around. And the more I think about it after I finish the game, because that's like awesome that they like show you how to do it and like give them fun little names so you can like look at something and be like, oh, I can do this thing. But I was also thinking after I finished the game, why don't you use that exact time to give someone the opportunity to literally play out the little video that you just showed them as well, so you can get it like further into your that way. I think that would have really helped me be like, oh, okay, this is the exact situation that I do this exact thing, so I can try to work around. Then I like have more stuff like in my muscle memory toolkit instead of just like building a fucking staircase to nowhere every time I see a wall of blocks.
That's exactly, maybe it's different on normal, but when I was playing on easy, there was actually only one time in memory where talking to that sheep on the landing and getting a technique, that technique actually showed up as the thing I had to do in the next level. It was the bring down the house technique, but it was the one where you save yourself by jumping on the block you just pushed out. And then suddenly I go to the next level, and I had to do that like 4 or 5 times. Now, I don't know if you both feel this, but I feel like, I've got this theory. I mean, it's not even a theory. It's like simple design where, so I think every encounter in the tower, every set of blocks you come by, there is a way that they designed you to do it. There's a certain technique that you use to get up this section, right? And I think the way they tell you that is by following the small piles of gold. That was how I was able to have such a smooth time on easy, because if you go for the large piles or if you go for the items, often you will have to use an advanced technique to get them or to get back. And I would find most of my undos or restarts was trying to go off the beaten path, as it were. So in the end, when I just wanted a smoother time, I would follow these small piles of gold. But I think you can do that way, but it feels like the way these levels are designed, because they're not like the multiplayer stages or the Tower of Babel, where it just you can keep climbing forever.
Fuck Babel.
Oh, because of the variety of techniques available to the player, whether or not they know them, you can do them at any time. I think there are multiple ways you can overcome each obstacle, even if there is a quote unquote right way to do it.
I think you're absolutely right, but I would say at the very least for me, what I kept seeing when it came to the whole like technique thing, like you were saying earlier that you would get them and then you'd have to use them. I almost saw it as opposite. I almost saw every single time they're like, "Hey, check out this technique," and I was like, "Yeah, I just had to use it, my guy. Like I know." like it almost seemed like it was placed, hey, just to make sure you have it. So perhaps that's just me like playing a few playthroughs kind of thing. I'm not sure, but I would say in terms of the gold piles, I don't know. I mean, I can kind of see what you're saying, where you would have to know more advanced techniques to get them. I just don't know because I always saw them as like a huge risk, and if I had time, I would try to get them. But many times it would be like, I have no idea how I would even get back from this, and if I were to try, I would use my undos, and I would just I'd have to go back to the checkpoint essentially. So I think I would probably say if that was their intention, I'd be pretty surprised. Like if the gold piles were supposed to be like coins in Mario, like that's what you're saying, right?
Well, no, just the small gold piles, and maybe this is something on easy. No, the large gold piles. Sorry if I wasn't clear. The large gold piles are definitely, you need to use some advanced techniques to get there and back, but the small ones seem to be like coins in Mario. This is the way forward.
Well, I think I can better agree with you on that, but I'll also say as like a counter to that, I've seen plenty of small gold piles where it's like you most likely have already approached the ending, for instance, and then you have to go out of your way like to get a small gold pile, and instead of like reaching for the handle. I'm sure you guys have had that at least once or twice, right? Yeah. So I don't know if all of them are like that, but I can totally agree that there are quite a lot placed in that way to like tantalize you to go, this is the right way. So yeah, I think I agree on that part.
Another thing about the techniques, can I just say, it's called like the spider something, where you're supposed to like do like a downward spiral like multiple times. I never used that one time.
And it looks so cool.
It does look cool. I don't actually remember what it's called. I feel like it's either called like the spiral something or like the spider something. But the idea is like, that technique where you'll pull a block in, so then so let's say you pull a block on top to the right and it knocks you to the edge. So then you have to drop down and then pull the next block down out and then drop down again and then pull the one on the bottom to the left so you can climb up it. But this technique was like saying like, oh yeah, you like do that in like a full circle like 3 or 4 times. And I never used that one specifically like ever. I don't know when anybody would fucking use that.
Okay, hang on. Spider technique. Okay, so it isn't just spider, you're saying, right? Because I use spider all the time.
Is the spider one the one where you do it that like 3 or 4 times and you're like going around in a spiral?
No, okay, so spider is just you hanging off the edge. Hang on, so I'm gonna try like spiral something. Spiral corridor maybe? No, spiral spider. Is that it?
Probably.
Okay, hang on. Spiral spider. All Catherine climbing techniques HD. I don't know if I want to go through all this. Okay, I'll just... I guess I won't react, and Dave, you can just say whatever you're going to say.
What you described, Drew, of just pulling the blocks out, so then you kind of create a staircase downwards before you come back up. I mean, I'd say that's the core technique of Catherine, and the one I use.
I mean, but that one's based as fuck. The regular one is fucking awesome. But I'm saying this specifically. Maybe you'll definitely see it, and if you pour over the fucking footage, Dork.
Oh,
but they're
great.
like literally
glad you gave me an objective there. Thanks, Drew.
It's where the fucking Johnny Sheep or whoever is like, dude, you have to create a fucking actual spiral using blocks so you can like keep climbing like up and turn 90 degrees as you keep going up. And I'm like, there's no way that I would ever build that on one of these stages.
It was basically just, like, because I have done it before where I like that staircase. I sometimes will pull one out instead of going sideways as well, but only like once. It's not like I've never created, a full spiral.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all I had to say about that. Have fun in the footage, Dork.
I'll just kind of move on then. This is like the last part I was going to talk about with the whole nightmare section, so bear with me. We will get to all the sections, don't worry. So essentially, as I said before, it's like a two-half structure of the game. You have the daytime and you have the nightmares, and you pretty much like live a whole week of this guy's life. So you have around like 7 or 8 nightmares too, and every single nightmare it gets a little bit more difficult, or at the very least adds like some new block or some new or like even enemies after a while. How did you guys feel in terms of like the progression of like night to night? Did you have any crazy issues on certain nights? Maybe, I have no idea about that, right? Or did you happen to like any block? Shut up, Drew. Or did you happen to like any specific blocks more than others and that kind of stuff?
Ooh.
Dave?
Oh yeah, I've got plenty to say about this. I thought the progression was actually pretty good. Well, okay, since I spent the first 2 nights on safety, I don't know how it kind of starts out, but from night 3 on easy onwards, I mean, I told you I had that stumbling block babooms on 7-4. Night 6, like that was one that you both had a lot of trouble with night 6, and I can't remember if that was tricky or not for me. 7-4, I think, sticks out in my mind just because I spent like a whole session on it.
If it helps, I specifically, I was like gobsmacked when you're like, wow, you two are really building this up. But honestly, I didn't have, like, I think you specifically said you didn't have much trouble. And I was like, I think I said, absolutely fuck off, Dave, or something like that. I was so upset with you.
Well, it's definitely because, like I said, the fucking gap between difficulties is crazy huge for some reason. So I'm sure, like, the parts that were specifically like giving you and me trouble, Dork, may have been just like completely different.
Well, I remember like really early on, Drew, it was like night 4 or 5, you talked about having, there were like 2 towers and you had to like bridge between them, and I was I didn't have that at all. Later on, like night 7 or 8, I had a twin tower situation, but that was really cool actually. So it's funny, part of me wants to go back and try the game on normal. But the amount of trouble you guys had with night 6 and then certain aspects of night 7. Well, here's the best part about playing on easy. Most of my rage moments from memory of the original Catherine were on the boss levels when you're getting chased by some creature. And in this game, on easy, I never had a problem. There were a few tricky sections. A couple times I needed to restart at a checkpoint, but it was pretty smooth sailing. I was always far enough ahead of them to not be an issue. And later on, when I actually had Catherine in there, it was just annoying because I had to constantly wait for her. But, you asked about blocks. Sorry.
Yeah.
My most hated block was the black hole block.
True. I fucking hate that one too.
Especially because sometimes it would just set up climbs where you had to be very specific. It's like, go across 8 blocks, but if you go across 9 blocks, you're gonna fall in. And I played handheld on the Switch, and for the most part, the movement was really snappy. But every so often, I would go over one more than I needed to, and so that was why I didn't like the black hole blocks. Favorite blocks, I really like the spring block just because it's very funny seeing Vincent go whoa.
Yeah,
true.
I do like the The trap blocks, the spikes, I just think it's really cool when they come up. The bomb blocks, I really like. There's one section where I had to climb an entire staircase of them. So, it's not dangerous if you keep moving, but it's just a really cool moment. The monster blocks I find really disturbing, especially how they seem to die when you step on them. I didn't like them too much.
Yeah, it's so gross.
Yeah.
So gross.
Well, yeah, so it's really annoying how often, like, they move, like, again, like, I really like the undo, like, for small, issues like that, like small mistakes or small I didn't see this coming things, because if you move one block and there's one nearby, they'll move sometimes right over your head where you want it to go, and you're like, well, you ruined my plan. Also, really gross. I'm not sure if you guys saw this. You guys did, didn't you? You already know, don't you? If you hang off the block on them, he'll, like, lick you and you'll fall off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really grody. But I just really like, stuff that's, like, macabre, but also, like, in a silly way. So these blocks, like, were really interesting to me. Like, they were just like, yeah, here's, like, something, like, actually fucking gross as compared to every other block that's just, like, a puzzle block. Here's, like, a disgusting concept. And I was like, hell yeah, let's go. And
I almost think, like, it turned it up a notch on that aspect to it when you had, like, the mystery blocks and they would turn into that. Because I would always dread it. I'm like, please don't be one of those. And it'd be like, oh, there it is.
It always fucking is.
Yeah.
I take that over the bomb block any day, just saying.
Oh my god, yes. Dude, fuck the bomb blocks. That's why Night 6 was a fucking nightmare, is because they put those in all the right places.
Night 6 was a nightmare, like all of them.
Shut the fuck up. Okay, how do I want to put this then? Okay, Night 6 was like a wet nightmare because this is Catherine full body, and also because I was sweating all the fucking water out of my body because they would put the bomb blocks in just the right positions where you, like, basically have to ignite them and then speed the fuck along so you don't, like, ruin your entire path. Oh my god, they were so stressful.
Catherine full body sweats, am I right?
Okay. You know what I like that might be really, really controversial? I really like the ice blocks.
I like them too.
I love the ice blocks.
Okay, cool. I feel like they're the sort of thing that in any other game, like, in, like, Zelda games where you have to do those push block puzzles, but they, like, slide the full way across because it's ice. Here it's almost kind of reversed where it's like if you step on, like, a line of them, then you slide across. So I like having to, like, look and, like, plan out my path a little bit more consciously.
What was cool, also about them is, like, they showed up the night they showed up, which was like night 4 or 5 or 6. It was 4 or 5.
It was for sure 5 because it was so much fun, and the night 6 was torment.
Well, because after night 5, I never saw them until, like, night 8. They came back, and suddenly, like, Vincent slipped.
Really?
And I was like, wait, oh, the ice blocks. I remember you.
That's very interesting because they show up interspersed in, like, every night after night 5 for every other difficulty. That's really interesting then.
I was also on normal, and I would still say, like, what Dave is saying is probably true, like, to some extent. Just how I saw it was more like, yeah, like, they were, every now and then you would kind of see them, but it was like one block at a time, whereas, like, at the end, it was like, oh, here's a full row again. I remember this, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, because, like, night 5, like, Vincent's like, oh, it's cold as shit up here. What the fuck? So it's, like, built around the ice blocks, and then they're just kind of, like, there every once in a while, the nights until, like, the ending. So, like, definitely.
Oh, but, yeah. You know what was a huge missed opportunity for this? Okay, so there are certain enemies as well that get brought in, and, like, it's usually sheep that are in the way, right? But at one point, you have, like, on night, I think, like, 4 or 6, I forget, you have some ants in there randomly, and then, like, you realize why they were there was because the next morning you see the ants were all over you because of the food. Imagine if the ice blocks were there because he had left his freezer door open or something.
That would have been really wacky and cool.
It's too bad that didn't happen, but at the same time, they had a lot of other stuff to get. Then again, the ants weren't that. Well, I suppose we'll get to that later.
No. Look, I actually agree with you because throughout the whole. Okay, so whenever I play any game, I always like look up the soundtrack, and like whenever I play through like a level or a section or something, like I'll listen to the songs of the levels that I just played, just so I know like exactly like what the whole, like what everybody on the team's like idea was, basically, you know? And this is somewhat disconnected, but I guess it's also kind of connected, because in the classic Atlas theme song intro that they do for the game, which by the way, the theme song for this game is called Yo. Yeah. Which is such a fucking horrible name for a song. They have all this imagery of the ants like prominently in the intro, which I mean, it is a plot point, and then later on in the score, there's like, I think at least 1 or 2 tracks that are like called like Ants or something like that. So it was like, holy shit, like the Ants is going to be like the biggest plot point. And I guess it kind of was, but like just not in the way that I was like building it up in my head. So I kind of let myself down.
That's funny. I do absolutely want to talk about the Ants again when we talk about like the story stuff, because I do really 100%. Think it's interesting. But at the same time, I'll just like sum it up with the whole, like, ice block thing. I also like wrote down, I think the ice blocks were really clever. In almost every platforming action adventure game, anything, ice is just kind of seen as like almost like a water level. It's like, okay, it's what you got to put in there to spice things up. Ooh, it's slippery, be careful, kind of thing. But here, because Catherine already has so much depth and complexity to it, and interesting mechanics that make you think about all the blocks and like what you're going to do and all these different actions, it just feeds in really well with what's already there, and kind of encourages you to like lean more on the, I guess, spider technique, where like you pull a block out and then like you hang on the ice blocks, because for some reason it's slippery to walk on, but he can hold on to ice just fine. But either way, no,
it could have easily just been. It could have just been like, oh, here's some sections where you slide, here's some sections where you do that. But more often than not, like, you gotta like step up onto the ice and then like grab another block to prevent yourself from sliding. So, like, you still really cool. Gotta, like, you have to actually think around it and keep puzzling around in multiple ways. And so, like, yeah, the ice blocks are, like, the best addition.
I'd almost go as far to say, unless you two have any other examples off the top of your head, this is one of, like, the best implements of ice mechanics in any game I've ever seen.
I have one other game I love, but it's a game you both probably have never heard of. So... It doesn't count.
Oh, sure it does. I want to hear it.
It's an NES game called Kickle Cubicle.
Kickle Cubicle?
So you're saying it's a game that's like built around ice?
Yeah, it's one of those. It's like a puzzle game where you can freeze enemies and then kick the ice blocks into the water, and it's all about like making ice blocks so you can have a pathway, and every like level's a single screen, and they've set up a like puzzle for you to solve.
All right, you know what? I'm gonna move the goalposts here. It's the best ice implementation in a non-ice based game.
I was gonna say that shockingly reminds me like of how Kirby does ice, because you like freeze enemies and then you can like kick them and they just slide horizontally in the air.
Bottom.
But it's a... Yeah, you're right, actually.
Bottom.
Bottom. You're so right.
Okay, so I think we talked about the gameplay quite long enough. I mean, it absolutely deserves it. I picked this game. This is the reason I picked it. I adore this gameplay, but it's only half the game. Other half the game is the daytime sections, where you're either like seeing cutscenes of Vincent, talking to his friend at work, where you're hang out at the bar and you get to talk to people who are usually coming in the bar. You get to see, cutscenes with your girlfriend Catherine, and you get to see cutscenes with your, I guess, cheating partner, other Catherine, and also there's Rin too.
Wait, but Dork, how would one tell the difference between all of these women?
Well, you see, and this is honestly really clever of them, they're all named Catherine, but their first letters are different.
Oh.
So the Catherine you're with is Catherine with a K, but as you'll see, that's not the title of the game. The title of the game is Catherine with a C.
Bruh.
I know. And also Catherine, also like Rin with the pink hair, who was added for full body, is named Catherine with a Q, but I will admit, I think even the developers knew how stupid that was, because the explanation that Rin gives is equally as stupid. So
Yeah, no, I'm so happy they just let you call her Rin because, oh my god, that would have been so
Right.
embarrassing.
I found the reveal kind of funny, actually. I mean, I knew she was a third Catherine. That was like when Full Body came out, just reading about it, that was explained in like most of the reviews. But I think it would have been kind of funny if I'd never thought about it. And then, like, you know, day 4 or 5 or whenever it happens, I think it's when Vincent gives her his phone, isn't it? That she's like, oh yeah, my name's Catherine, spelt this way. And he's like, whoa,
Well,
what?
The reveal is so funny. Yeah, no, the reveal is so funny because Vincent like starts sweating and he like drops to the floor on his knees. He's like, "No fucking way! This has to be some kind of crazy coincidence, right?"
That's amazing.
And she's like, "Oh,
honestly, like
Vincent."
Vincent's.
She's
Don't worry,
like,
I'll be talking about that. Jesus Christ. Yeah, so on this half of the game, you know, you have a whole bunch of decisions to make. You know, they're usually always like binary, you know, oh, should I do like the good thing or should I do the bad thing? But sometimes they actually are kind of a little more ambiguous than you might think. But we'll, of course, get to that soon, though. So basically, like I said, you'll have cutscenes, you'll go to the bar, hang out as long as you like, essentially, talk to people there, and then you go to the nightmare. So overall, how did we feel about like the bar, you know, like the hangout area of the bar itself, where you get to talk to a bunch of people and drink and stuff?
I've got well, a big thought about this because I don't know about you two, but over the last maybe 2 to 3 years, I've heard more and more critics talk about the idea of games as hangout spaces, like certain games. Especially, I've heard it a lot about the Yakuza titles with, you know, they usually use the same city of Kamurocho in every game. And that city is, you know, like a few blocks of an actual city, and it's just a fun space to exist in. So more and more I'm hearing people talk about the idea of it's almost like a separate thing for some people, whether or not a game is good or bad, or the story is good or bad. If the game can create a space that's just cool to hang out in, it lends the game a long way to being something worthwhile. And when I was playing this, having all that discussion over the last couple of years in my head, I'm like, oh, this is really cool, because not only is the bar a literal hangout space, you know, this is where Vincent and his buddies spend all their evenings. It's like just a really cool segmented hangout space. Like there are also the landings in between the nightmare levels, which are like mini hangout spaces, but I just thought it was really interesting how this game not only has such a space, but it's a very segmented space where it's like, oh, well, you've gone through the cutscenes, you've just had the nightmare play, so now it's time to hang out in the bar again.
When you put it that way, you know, so if anyone isn't aware, all like the good and bad side are actually labeled chaos and order. Whether they actually match up or not is up to, you know, user discretion. But essentially, how I see it now, when you're in the nightmares, it's in a way chaotic, but it's also very ordered because you have to do a certain thing. Whereas like the bar is kind of, you know, you have more freedom there. You're able to kind of go, wait a minute, hang on. Freedom and...
No, I think you're kind of on the right track there, to be honest, Dorkaxe. I know you guys, so something I've learned after like I started playing Persona, like I went and watched like everybody's like SMT videos basically. And so basically like every fucking Atlas game is about chaos versus order, which is more or less like determinism versus like libertarianism or free will or whatever. I really like your idea that both spaces kind of function as both because aesthetically the nightmares are chaotic, but the gameplay is obviously you have to make it orderly in order to get the path forward. Whereas the bar is like a structured like space, like this is like an organized like space where like people, like it's an established space in the human world. People come to hang out there. But then like there's the chaos of drinking and the chaos of you truly having the free will to enact what Vincent does during that time. Especially in terms of like choosing how much that he drinks. So I think the themes are kind of reflected nicely in that little space just there. Yeah.
When you also put it that way, you helped me like realize too, well, I guess if you're right, that means I'm also right. So awesome. I'm right. But no, but like it like the bar is also chaos in terms of, so like as you were saying, like the nightmares are very ordered in a way because you have to like linearly like go up and complete the level. It's a level you have to complete, and like the bar,
You create order, yeah.
like the yeah, you create order, but it has an end goal. Whereas at the bar, there's, as like Dave was pointing out, there was even like a little graph that like showed it. There's a ton of people to talk to, and there are things you can miss if you don't have the the right ideal, like talk to this person first, because people leave and enter the bar. So you could like it is kind of chaos in a way, and in terms of who like Vincent talks to and all the outcomes possible just from you being at the bar. I'm pretty sure you can just leave the bar and not do anything there. I have no idea what would happen, but you wouldn't receive any text from either Catherine, so I have no idea how that influences anything. But I have to, again, it just kind of goes with the anything is possible kind of thing in the bar.
Yeah, definitely.
In the bar are a whole bunch of characters. I suppose you could kind of call them that, patrons of the bar who like come in now and then, and you're able to kind of talk about their whatever stupid boring life and shit like that. And about half of them also complain about nightmares and stuff, which we'll talk about in the future. Did any of their stories like stick out? Do you have any of the characters in the bar that you hated or you liked at all? Obviously, besides Erica, by the way.
Erica gets her own section.
Erica's great.
Well, the only nightmare characters I saved in the end were the oil baron chic guy and his cook friend, who they both came on the last night in the bar, so I was able to meet them. Everyone else died.
I fucked up because basically by the end everybody was fucking dead. Or I don't know, like if the ninth night is like supposed. Well, I did have plenty of people like by the end of like the seventh night, but I'm not sure if the ninth night was supposed to be empty or not because of like it's Vincent just going up against what's his face,
the boss.
So like is that place supposed to be empty or are people supposed to show up there?
Give me 20 seconds. Edge. Sorry.
Edge. You know how like Audio Jungle.
It's an edge case.
That's the seventh day.
God, I'm looking at my stopwatch.
Dave hates this as much as he hated me fucking playing the games in Left 4 Dead 2. He's playing the fucking games again.
I love that you put that into your video. It was as funny the second time too.
On
day 9, so I have the policeman there. So yeah, I think they are supposed to show up.
Okay, then so I fucked up. Everybody fucking died. But I did spend quite a bit of time talking to the police officer. I didn't see the conclusion to his story that you told me about, Dork, but I did get like the tidbit where he's like, yeah, I've just been burying the lead because I fucking killed my wife and I've been hiding it for like 6 years or whatever.
I can't believe he opened with that because both me and Drew were like, this police guy is the worst character in the game. What a complete ass, horrible person.
Yeah.
But no, if you keep talking to him, he eventually goes, I mean, I practically killed her. I mean, I said, like, we had an argument and I said, I hate you, and then she got like run over that day. Or I'm like, that's not the same as you saying I killed her.
Dude, that's the most Catholic guilt shit I've ever heard in my life. Yeah, he like very much turns a corner there. That's really goofy.
Well, it's funny because like at one point, every now and then he'll come in, and I think there was like a turning point where I was like, wait, what? Because again, he starts off by saying I killed her, and I'm like, Jesus, this cop's just admitting this out in the open, wild. And then like day 3 or 4 or something, he kind of changes it to go, I practically killed her, and I'm like, wait, but and he's like, I'm still trying to find the guy. I'm like, what? Didn't you just say that? What? And then he said, oh yeah, I didn't want the. I don't know. He's kind of messed up, but I saved him, and not all cops are. I'm kidding. I'm not gonna say that. But I was able to save the cop. I was able to save like the oil baron and the chef. I was also able to save Archie, who's the guy who has like this
that's
fucking
good.
rivalry with Vincent. And
Yeah.
Vincent's like, I barely know you, and he's like, since kindergarten, I always wanted to be you, and it's like, what a weird fucking dude.
What the fuck? Who is what? It's not Archie. What was the name of the? It was Steve. So the reason that
Steve the dentist.
The reason that I thought that I was actually like supposed to have like nobody else during the final night, which really sucks in retrospect because it means that I just like fucked up with talking to people. But the reason I thought that is because they kill off Steve the dentist in an anime cutscene. And even there, he's like the only other sheep in the anime cutscene with you. So I thought the idea genuinely was that like Vincent's the only one to like rise above.
Mm-hmm.
So
honestly, I don't think you're too far off because I don't think it's ever very clear, or at the very least not very consistent. Because I mean, obviously Orlando and Johnny stay alive the whole time, but there is a point where you don't see anybody anymore. So I don't know. Well, hang on. I first want to correct myself. I said Archie. Sorry, Archie was the person who cheats because he hates women, and he died almost immediately for me. Sorry. Daniel is the weird,
based.
Daniel is the guy who's like, I want to be better than you, Vincent, which is weird.
Yeah,
but
Archie's a weird piece of shit.
Yeah, Archie's fucked up. But okay, so I have a question then. So obviously, there are people there are a whole bunch of people who attended the Stray Sheep, who had the nightmares too, and who you eventually got to see in the nightmares and all that kind of stuff. But what do you make of like the landing that you get to talk to all the sheep in between each of the nightmare stages?
I mean, as I said before, it's like a lesser hangout space. It's a bit of quiet between the chaos of the gameplay itself. It is kind of cool where, it doesn't take too long for you to kind of put, I guess, names to voices or see what little like indicator they have to realize who they are in the real world. Like, the journalist who's always at the bar who you can never really talk to. He just always goes, I've got no leads today, but I'm pretty sure he's the one you're discussing techniques with. And I do like how open most people on the landing were to help and just seeing how they were. Some were pretty shitty, and of course there were the weird psycho sheep who, especially the red one. You talk to him, he's like, blood, kill, and you're like, okay, dude.
I love that guy.
And especially like the lore is, some people enter the nightmare and they just delight in making hell for other people. So I guess they only have one end, really. Although, here's an interesting thing about it. So, like, a lot of them died because of my actions. I didn't save everybody. But, Johnny or Orlando made it. And I wonder if, like, the journalist did as well. But, it's that thing where if Vincent didn't make that deal with the boss, would they have just kept going into the nightmare night after night? Because there was dialogue that said, like Vincent got through a whole floor each night, but apparently that was really rare. Like, it would often take some sheep multiple nights to get through if they ever did as well. It seemed like a lot of, even Vincent's cheering on other sheep was important because apparently, it felt like some sheep would just like sit at the landing forever.
Yeah, like Vincent is like the narrative reason that it all starts turning like around for everybody, and that's why the various like gods at play like start getting pissed off is because Vincent is the one that's able to like turn things around for literally everybody.
Like the whole like reason that I brought this up was because I guess I'm not 100% sure on the like the logistics of it. So every single time you complete a mission, you get brought up in an elevator upwards to the platform, then you take an elevator upwards to the next one. I guess in my mind, I was always thinking those were individual platforms, like separate from each other. But now the more I'm like thinking about it, you are right that like they talk about like Vincent's the only guy to climb this much, which means that they all can't have been climbing the whole time, as you were. So is it that they just keep like bringing you back to the same platform? Is that what's going on?
Well, I think the implication is more so supposed to be that, like, because Vincent is stepping up, that everyone does actually, like, learn how to climb that well. Like, Vincent helps everybody. but it's just like more so implied because obviously the gameplay can't like account for it.
Well, but the weird thing, you just brought it up for me, is that, like, everyone is not on every landing, yet, you'll go a couple more and suddenly people who weren't there are there then. So it's like, how did they catch up? It's all very weird in terms of how it works for every individual character.
Yeah. I agree. And like, since we're here on the landing, we'll hold that for the actual story part too. So I think that's based. I mean, did anyone else have anything else to say about these like minor characters? I mean, I don't think.
I just have one thing to say. Would you like to speak to Lindsay? Would you like to speak to Martha?
Would you like to speak to Lindsay? Dude, I fucking hate those old ladies. Every time I sit down with them, they're like, Mr. Thomas is dead. Mr. is dead. I'm like, shut the fuck up. I don't give a shit. I've never met these people in my fucking life, dude.
It is 5 days till the time of freedom.
I'm like, damn, I don't give a shit. They don't even turn out to be like if they were like, oh yeah, the twins were like the guy in the confessional booth or whatever, then I'd be like, oh, I mean, I guess that makes sense. But then they're just like creepy twins, so I guess it's just like a Shining reference or something.
Yeah,
it's just fucking stupid.
Who are they?
Yeah.
At the end of my ending, on like the Rin True ending, I don't know if this is like a day 9 or like a day 10 exclusive, because again, I got a whole extra day. They were saying that they're going to like be on TV because they were able to see the future or something like that. So that they have some premonition like skills or whatever. But it seems like it's one among many, many red herrings the game kind of throws at you. And I kind of want to get to that. I almost want to... Okay, so there's a whole lot to delve into. Now that we've kind of gone through everything else, there's a whole bunch of like red herrings essentially, which I believe Martha and Stacy are like meant to be, because the overall there's a mystery looming over every aspect of the game, because essentially how the game starts is that Vincent wakes up with a different girl in his bed, and he apparently cheated on his longtime girlfriend, and the entirety of the whole like story stuff is just like literally which girl do you want to be with, essentially, and he has to like comically hide his like new girlfriend from his old one, and it's just there's a whole bunch of hijinks. Like when he meets with his old girlfriend again, Catherine with a K, he's like, oh, I'm acting normal, don't worry, and he like sweats through his fucking shirt and shit. It's great. All great stuff.
Yeah.
But there's this like mystery like looming over the whole thing, which was, why are these nightmares happening, and like why are these weakening deaths keep like being attributed to people who have nightmares? And we don't really know what's going on, and it keeps being hinted that there's like a witch or something out there like causing all this. And I'm just really curious, Drew, because you had said, oh, like Vincent, he's talking to the person who's behind all of it. He's so stupid. How come he doesn't get it? Who?
Oh my god!
What were all your theories throughout the entire 7 days of like what was behind all of this?
Every time I experience like a story like this for the first time, I'm like, okay, well, like what's the plot outline? Like they say nights 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever, and then they like are like, this is when this happens, and so this is when we reveal this, and then like a writer has to write around that. So at first they were just like, oh, Vincent like spends some time with each girl, and then Catherine with a K is pregnant, and so they're just like slowly introducing things. So when they finally did that, what I assumed that was connected to, literally for no fucking reason, I swear the first time that Steve the dentist calls Vincent on the phone to threaten him, that the subtitles said Catherine with a Q the first time.
They did, and I can explain why if you'd like.
Wait, okay, so I wasn't going fucking crazy, because then after that it turned out to be about Catherine with a C. Okay, so what the fuck is happening there?
So, Drew, okay, so like what you're saying is like you thought for sure it was the stalker that was stalking Rin, right?
Yes.
Right. I totally understand the reason why you thought that, but the reason why I was so like, I can't talk about this with you right now is because I played Catherine Classic, and that scene was in there too, except the part where he goes, you mean Catherine? And I thought it was clever how they put the Q one there, because he addressed that immediately, and that was out of the way, and then like the actual like normal scene that was from the classic version Like basically just continued, without
Well,
any new additions.
it happened in reverse where like the first thing that Steve says is Catherine with a Q. So then when Vincent like double checks him, he's talking about Catherine with a C. So that's why I got it backwards.
Yeah,
That's fucking
because
crazy.
I thought it was really clever because it was trying to tell us that that's who like Vincent like thought he said like that's who he thought he was referring to initially. And then that's why they had the Q there. And then he goes, wait, do you mean Catherine? And then you can see like the one letter change, over to the C. And I was thinking,
Right.
of course, because I've already played the classic version, was like, oh, that was honestly way smoother because like for me, it's like, right, all of like the Rin stuff is out of the way now. We can continue with this, who this guy is supposed to be. But it's so interesting how for you it was the opposite. You're like, no, this is the fucking stalker, you idiot.
Well, maybe they did just switch the subtitles or something based on like what path they were trying to predict I would end up on. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it does that. Dave, was there which way? Because dude, I swear I'm like going crazy right now. Like,
no,
Dave, like
everything
you're
saying is right. Like you aren't wrong. You're right.
Okay. Well,
like
anyway,
everything you're saying is true.
Okay, well then let me move on to I'm actually like I'm literally making that Vincent cross-eyed face right now into my microphone.
Wait, so he's who you thought? Because you said like Vincent, like you're literally staring at the person, right? So that's who you're referring to?
No, I'm saying like I'm going crazy. I'm making like Vincent's cross-eyed face right now because I'm going insane. But that's all that there really is to this misunderstanding. So there were other things that I was thinking about.
Okay, let's hear those other things. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, that was a fucking tangent that was the Seinfeld of tangents. So the other main thing is obviously the boss, the guy at the bar. Obviously he plays a big thing into it of the game. I remember the first night of the game, I was looking at him up there and I was like, okay, this guy's fucking shady. He's going to be relevant as fuck. But as the nights like went on and he just like didn't do anything in the plot, like he was just like there in the bar, I like forgot about that seed that I planted for myself. So then when the big reveal happened, like my jaw like this happens to me all the time. Like I'll be watching like a movie or a TV show or something and I'll see a character and be like, that guy's shady as fuck and there's going to be a big twist. And then like because the show or movie like just goes on for a period of time and they do other stuff, like I forget that I forget that I predicted a twist until the twist actually happens and then my mind is still blown. So like I have that very specific type of like forgetfulness. So I like did call that the boss was shady as fuck and he probably was going to be like a big piece later on in some regard. Or, even if it was just that like he talks to Vincent about the cheating at some point or that sort of thing, like in like a actual big cutscene or something. But I like forgot about that because he like just sits at the bar during like the gameplay. And so then I was like floored when they like actually made like a big deal out of it. Like
essentially what you're saying is that you were like sussed onto the boss immediately and his inactivity, you're like, okay, obviously it isn't him. So then who did you think it was after the boss?
There's a piece of dialogue that I think it's either the confessional guy, Astaroth, or one of the sheep. Well, one, there's the sheep that says, man, I can't believe that I'm like doing this to my best friend or whatever. And Vincent's like, what? And then you go, he's like Chris Pratt in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. He's like, what? And then you go into the confessional and the guy's like, little do you know that the person that put you here is fucking staring at your face and laughing every fucking day, or whatever he said.
That was a really good impression.
Amazing impression.
That was really good.
Dork, put those fucking audio clips back to back. It's the same thing.
The one who dropped you into this place speaks to you on a daily basis as if they don't know anything, while laughing behind your back.
Little do you know that the person that put you here is fucking staring at your face and laughing every fucking day, or whatever he said.
That was a really good impression.
Amazing impression.
That was really good.
Dork, put those fucking audio clips back to back. It's the same thing. The And so I was like, okay, so obviously Catherine is like has to be, another thing I did call is I was like, Catherine has to be supernatural in some way, because like on top of Vincent blacking out like every night, which is just fucking embarrassing for him. Like he should not be doing that. But also like she just kind of like shows up, and she's clearly shown to like have pretty big strength for like such a dainty like musculature. And as well, even just in her character design, the little ringlets, like her iconic ringlets, literally look like the goat horns that everybody obviously has in the Nightmare. So even cueing into the fucking character design, I was like, yeah, that has to fucking be
big brain. I didn't even know. That's an awesome, cool. Awesome thing to notice.
That actually was the other thing where I, at the beginning of the game, I was like cued into that, but got caught up in like just the actual drama of the plot that I forgot that I predicted that. And then at the end of the game, they were like, they revealed what's actually going on. And then I was like, holy fuck. Because I just forgot that I like called it.
The writers were good then. They're like, we're going to make this main character suck so fucking much that you forget everything.
You forget about any other character in the fucking story having any agency at all. Yeah. So I was like, so that was my thing at the beginning. But then after the piece of dialogue from that one sheep that I thought was Johnny or whatever, eventually I started thinking, and there's the other person who was like, oh, the pregnancy was fake. I can't believe this or whatever. So I was like, okay, so maybe Catherine with a K is like the witch that like cursed Vincent, but Catherine legitimately is cheating and getting some other guys there at least. Ooh, where I was like, maybe there's even like a whole like coven of people or something. I don't know. Cool. So those were kind of like my low key game theories, but obviously what ended up happening was completely disconnected from literally anything, because there are so many fucking red herrings in this plot, because it's based on a fucking soap opera, obviously.
Yeah, I recall I was telling Dave this in my first playthrough. It's funny how many people that we suspect, right? Because clearly something is going on, and there's like so much noise happening, like in terms of like, you know, because there's of course the correct answer, but there's so much like rumor mill stuff and a lot of other characters kind of behaving strangely. And I was telling Dave, I really thought that the person who ends up just like being like a god called Astaroth, you know, the one guy who always asks you questions in the confessional booth, I was like, he doesn't sound like anybody who's in the bar, except, I mean, the only person I could think is maybe Toby, and I don't see Toby in the bar, and I know he doesn't have sex, ever, apparently. So I was thinking, Toby's the one behind this.
He won't shut the fuck up about how he doesn't have sex.
I know. So Toby's the one who enacted this to get back at his friends for having sex. That's what I thought.
So you thought Toby was a fucking incel?
Right.
That's so good.
I also had a suspicion of like the Martha and Stacy sisters too. I also had a suspicion on Erica, because she seemed so confident and like so always I suppose the word is confident. Every single time you talked to her, she wasn't very scared of anything. She was just very like well composed. And I was thinking, I mean, she's so nice, but is it a twist? Because there has to be some twist like going on here. But obviously, no. Erica's the best. Always and forever.
The twist is that she's the only good person in this whole game.
Yeah.
I don't think I would disagree with you too strongly. I like Erica a lot.
I have no problem with Rin either, to be honest.
Yeah.
I have so many problems with Rin.
Oh, okay.
But on a base level, like as a function in the story, like Rin's like a little cutie pie. Like you can't hate on them. Like, you know, like you can hate on them for how they're portrayed, and you can hate on them for their shitty dialogue. But like if I met a person like that in real life, I would just feel like, you know what, I can deal with this.
Speaking of red herrings, because this kind of ties in with Rin, and then we'll kind of talk about, you know, the whole like Catherine stuff. One thing that I thought was really interesting, and again, I'll also like bring up in the future, like more small like foreshadowing bits like this. At one point, the confessional, like the Astaroth and Vincent were having a small conversation, and this was after we had, I think this was after day 6, and we had seen that Rin was supposedly a guy, right? That whole
Sure.
scene right there. And at the time, Astaroth's like, yeah, did you like your... And then like Vincent's like, I think he even says, so that's the big reveal, Rin's gender or something like that. Like he says like, oh, like that's the big, like hiding thing. Like, that was the huge surprise, just like their gender. That's it. And I was thinking, wow, is that such a red herring in disguise? Because at that point you're probably thinking, oh, here's the big reveal about Rin, that he's actually a guy, and it's like, oh, okay, I suppose they already had a trans character before, so they're trying to do even more with that. And then, of course, if you get the right endings, you see, no, actually, that wasn't even close to how fucking ridiculous this game is. Rin is an alien.
Yeah, we just watched all the endings for the different Catherines, like, right before we started recording, and Rin's is by far the most batshit thing I could ever conceive Atlas doing ever.
But you know why? It's not just... Okay, it's not just that Rin is an alien. It's not just that Rin has, like, 100 brothers who are these little, like... they're like the aliens from Toy Story.
Yeah.
But then the ending, when Vincent is her producer and they're touring the galaxy, is on the fucking Citadel from Mass Effect, and there's just a million aliens. Johnny's talking up this, like, 9-foot-tall purple alien lady, and then Erica and Toby are like, you know what? We're going to be wrestlers. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
I mean, thematically, it's supposed to be like Rin has been like so motivational for like Vincent, and then so then like everybody ends up being motivated to like go in like a completely different direction. But it's also just like, what the fuck are you guys talking about right now? I've never heard of any of this in my life.
See, again, that's why I wish you guys could have seen that whole extra day, because there was a lot of. I mean, it would have at least given it more context, because there's an angel here. What the hell's going on? And I think that's also when Erica's like, oh man, I'm gonna sign up to be like a female wrestler or something. So it wasn't completely out of pocket, but it certainly is ridiculous, especially because, I watched your endings too. So. In each of your endings, was there any hint that Rin was an alien?
Okay, no. In my ending, when Rin runs off and you get that phone call from them, and she's just like, goodbye, Vincent. And that's like day 5 or 6? That was the last Rin ever came up.
I remember that now from my first playthrough of this.
And it was really weird as well, because the gender reveal, as you pointed out, it wasn't like a big reveal. For me, the most pressing question was, well, who the fuck is Rin? Amnesia and something chasing her, and it was a big part of the game. And then because I guess vanishes, Vincent was being Vincent, Rin runs off and it's like, okay, well, the path you're on, you're never going to get answers at all. Bye.
Yeah,
basically.
It's very weird how this game because it's like, well, Rin's not important. What matters is that you have your choice of woman. So you can. So then they just like focus on whoever you're actually locked in with, and if it is Rin, then that gets resolved in like a whole extra day of content and puzzles apparently. But everybody else is just like, here's the base game, I guess.
Yeah, it's wild. Also. If you guys ever have a chance, I would highly recommend like looking up how to get the true Rin ending, or even like the ending that fucking Drew got. Okay, so there's a day where Rin is playing the piano, and then everyone's like, I'm gonna take a video. Oh, like it's good luck if you send this video. Apparently, what you choose to do there impacts like it slowly starts to like work you on a certain ending, and you have to, I think for the one that Drew got, you have to decide to not like send it to Catherine like with a K, but you also have to like downplay it to Catherine with a C. It's very strange how much that day
I think
is
that
important.
I definitely did that. I definitely did those things then, but I did it just by like thinking about how I would like obviously I was trying to role play as Vincent.
Oh, I'm
so
sorry.
That's so fucking crazy. Yeah. I was just trying to get into this fucked up guy's little head.
Yeah. See, okay, so there's a whole bunch to talk about when it comes to Rin. Drew, do you happen to have like your passionate speech?
My page of 1.5 space Courier New copy that I've written. Yes, I do have that pulled up. Obviously, anybody that's played the game knows this already because it happens front and center. But for anybody that doesn't know, there's like a cutscene where, so at the beginning of the game, Rin is an amnesiac, and Vincent bumps into them, and their cock falls on his face instantly, but he doesn't know that he doesn't know about it yet. And then he like adopts her, and then...
Don't say adopts her. No, for people who haven't played, he doesn't adopt her.
Okay, he doesn't actually adopt her, but he takes her to the bar. He takes her to the bar to be like, hey, there's this amnesiac girl. Can you give her a job until we like figure out what the fuck is going on? So Rin like lives in the apartment next to Vincent anyway, and then they have like this really awkward scene where Rin comes over in their pajamas and hangs out with Vincent, and Vincent gets really horny, and then the next day, like Vincent is going back to his apartment. He like hears like a clack or something, and he opens Rin's apartment door, and there's like steam pouring out, and so then Rin is just like butt naked, and it obviously also collapsed on the floor. So I guess that's why Vincent like feels cause to like be concerned and go help, even though it's still like fucking really weird. But anyway, so then it turns out that Rin has like apparently the biggest cock that Vincent's ever seen, because Vincent starts like cowering on the floor and like having a panic attack. But then Rin like keeps trying to like talk about how they got their memory back, and like tries to come over and like give Vincent a hug, and Vincent's like, oh, don't touch me, you have this gigantic veiny cock, this is disgusting. And then Rin like runs away, and then of course Vincent like immediately feels bad, and then goes to... And here's another fucking weird and like actually not funny at all thing about it, is that Vincent goes to Erica and he's like, Erica, you knew the whole time about this private medical detail and didn't tell me about it. And then Erica's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Call Rin and apologize. So then they do that. So that's basically like what this whole controversy is surrounded. And obviously like the endings with Ren are more lighthearted and like just full of like bonkers ridiculous lore, because honestly Ren is like kind of a very extra cartoony character even for this game. But I feel like, considering the game's like somewhat serious attempt at like, they use like Western religious ideologies and like philosophy to like try to tell us like actual story and like give Vincent a real character arc, that sort of thing. I don't know, it's just very weird. It's not really about like how Ren actually identifies. Like, we've used all different pronouns for Ren throughout this whole podcast, because I don't think anybody like really actually knows. The wiki doesn't even give any of the characters pronouns. I think it more so has to do with like this game's soap opera framing and like a lot of the history that a lot of cinematic history has with portraying queer or trans people, as well as just Atlus themselves, especially this director who worked on all the Persona games. Because like there's a big tradition across so many like different types of movies and TV shows of portraying character being trans, especially a trans woman, as like a shocking reveal that's like really gross. Like for example, some examples I thought of, like just for the sake of like being really shocking, Ace Ventura does it. Ace Ventura throws up.
That one so much.
Yeah, Silence of the Lambs fucking did it, because Buffalo, that's the example that everybody uses of like, oh, like trans women are just trying to like dress up as women and then like murder actual women. Fucking Family Guy did it with Quagmire's mom across multiple episodes. Fucking Ray William Johnson's Gorillaz ripoff band wrote a song called Bitch Got a Penis, or whatever the fuck it was called. So like all of that just like leads, like all of this history across media like kind of leads up to Rin's reveal being like kind of mean-spirited in that same sort of way.
And Drew, Catherine itself, we talked a little about it before we recorded, but we'll get more in-depth into Erica, but Erica is a trans character, and in the first game,
Yeah.
The whole thing with Toby sleeping with her and the other friend group, Johnny and Orlando go, oh, I don't know, because they knew, they went to high school with Erica when Erica was Eric, but it's played for. I don't know if it's supposed to be played for laughs, but it always came off really shitty. And there is a very explicit, they tell Toby afterwards, and it's like, it's one of those stereotypical, oh, it's a trap, oh, what the fuck did I do kind of scenes. And it's all really gross. And I think, part of what Full Body was supposed to be, from what I understand, is they wanted to soften some of the sexual and gender politics and the attitudes they had in the original game into this game, kind of make it better, as it were. And I guess it kind of worked. They could just kind of, with Erica, they just kind of downplayed it. It was still there. It was more like, okay, so what the fuck's going on? I mean, because I knew it, I could see what was happening, but yeah, it was just a weird choice, I think.
Yeah, Erica has to be like forced into the middle of it, like even still, because even if they made it more subtle now, first of all, there's the whole thing about so in a lot of endings, like the ending that I got, actually, like Erica has very, very distinct red hair, and so there are multiple cutscenes where you see like a more masculine person in a past time period with like also very striking red hair. And as well, Toby does say in the ending that you got, Dave, he was like, oh, the guys knew you as Eric back in high school. So obviously they're presenting Erica before she transitioned. And so then in the present day, you have all of these lines, like you have Vincent going to her and being like, why didn't you tell me what Rin's private parts were that you knew the whole time from your doctor visit, apparently. And then there's also all the times that like the guys are like, they do try to address the transition in a more casual way. To me, that's how I interpret all the guys being like, oh, remember when you like disappeared off the face of the earth for a while? For like, they say that like 2 or 3 times throughout the game. They're like, you guys know what I'm talking about? That's how I interpret that. And then like we're all sitting around and like just assuming that Rin uses he/him pronouns, and all start talking about Rin that way. Erica's literally like, guys, it's not like you've never heard of anything like this before, sort of thing, which like having been in that position a few times, like it's like that's basically Erica's like polite way of being like, what the fuck, you guys, you're being such assholes right now. And then on top of that, obviously, like honestly, Erica is a champ for like still being sassy with Toby about taking his V card, because he only fucking complains about it afterwards and just being a huge transphobe to her. She's like, yeah, got your nose, ha ha ha. But so it just really sucks, because it definitely is like, one, there's this huge cultural context around it, like I was just talking about, but it really like is just like a pattern with, I don't even know if it's like specifically just this director or these writers that also worked on the Persona games 3, 4, and 5 or whatever, because I mean, slight spoilers for you, I guess, Dork, but there are so many scenes like in 4 where they're like, they have this recurring bit where all the guy characters like, hey guys, let's go babe hunting right now. Let's go babe hunting. And which is so fucking degrading and also insanely unrelatable to most people, I think. But anyway, and then in 3, they literally close that segment off. You're on the beach and you're talking to this like older lady, and then fucking one of the characters is like, wait, do you have fucking beard stubble? And then the lady's like, oh, I missed that part. Oh, so then they're literally being like, oh, like trans people are just like older pedophiles or whatever. It's just like a pattern with this studio, as well as like a greater cultural thing that just makes the whole thing around Rin and with Erica just like insanely weird. And I get that, like, you see a lot of naked women in this game because like this is supposed to be like an erotic thriller kind of story, so that's like kind of the whole point. Yeah, it's like kind of like it's the whole point. Like this game is like really horny and like sexually forward, and like that's the whole point, because sexual relationships are at the center of the drama. I don't know. There's just points where they're trying to address that as part of sexual relationships, but they just end up making like every character look like 10 times worse than they like already did by just just being dickheads about everything, you know? Like, I don't know. It just all comes across like so fucking weird with regards, like, obviously Rin is like a huge, massive, wide gray area because Rin turns out to be a fucking alien. So it's like, okay, well, who even knows how Rin truly identifies, because they never address that from Rin's perspective at all. It's all on the guys.
There's a great line in Rin's ending about that where, you know, after, like, they're in the bar and they're surrounded by all the brothers, and then Vincent looks at Rin and goes like, wait, so what do you really, and then he goes, oh, it doesn't matter what you are, it's the inside that counts, I love you, Rin.
That is a really sweet thing. I think that, I mean, yeah, and it's not like they need to like have a line where Rin's like, I use they them pronouns or whatever. It's kind of like a timeline where he gets like 2% better with each of these games that they do, you know? So I guess we'll just have to see what they choose to do with some of this stuff, since they're literally remaking Persona 3. I guess we'll have to see where it goes, especially because this director isn't even like involved in that project at this point.
And I mean, so he's not the director of Persona 6, although it's obvious Persona 6 is in production, but I don't know if we know the team behind that at the moment.
I don't think we do. I think all of these people that were working on Persona, they moved over to that like fantasy metaphor project or whatever the fuck it's called. I'm very excited to play it, but I am not memorizing that fucking name until I have to. Anyway.
Because this was originally about Rin, but I have some things to say about Rin as a character, but I want to like shelve that for now so I can talk about the trans stuff. Because I will say, I agree with everything you said. It really seems like we're not allowed, not allowed. Obviously we are, right? I'm like a comedian going, I'm gonna get canceled, and they have like a fucking like $1 million show. It just seems like talking about other countries' cultures in like a backwards way isn't like, it's kind of frowned upon, but it's like, it's kind of the reality sometimes where like, especially in like Japan, it's not as progressive in terms of like social and like gender stuff. So
correct, yeah.
It's not only like a reflection of them, and I can totally agree with you that it's just not, you know, I personally don't relate to any of the guys, you know, who talk about it like in the story as if it's some like crazy thing. I'd just be like, oh, okay, because that's just how that's how I am. Be like, oh, okay, who cares? You know, that kind of thing. Like, you know. But at the same time, though, it totally does make the characters who react like negatively, like seem worse, just because like all of us are already like so okay with that because it's just a fucking normal thing. Who gives a shit? So it for sure like makes them look worse. But I will also say, all of us love Erica. I think Erica as a whole is a really good trans character, and it, like especially in 2011 Japan, I think that's like genuinely kind of impressive that they didn't make Erica so I'm only here for the trans joke, because if all that effort was put in just for the trans joke, I'd be pretty surprised, because she's pretty fleshed out and, as we've agreed, the best character in the game. So at the very least, that's nice to see. And I always think back to the one episode of Seinfeld where, you know, like if we watch it now, it's just embarrassing. But the one where they're like, you know, I'm not gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm not gay though. I'm not gay. You have to put that in the paper. I'm not gay. It's really cringe now, but I remember like reading about how people reacted to that at the time. That was like a prime time show. And like it was normalizing gay people.
Yeah, it got a like a GLAAD is like the like a big gay organization. Like it got an award from that organization just for like saying that at that point in time. Yeah.
Really cool. And obviously I wouldn't say Catherine's on the same level, but at the same time, I mean, like for better or worse, you know, you can argue that if we don't know if a character is trans or not, that's probably, you know, like a good trans character, because we don't have to see their private parts all the time anyway, right?
Sure.
But at the same time, you know, at the same time, because we like know Erica is trans, I don't even think if I can even like name any other trans character in any like single player game. The only thing I can kind of think of is the one character reveal for that one fighting game. That's the only one I can think of. Just the inclusion of one that isn't just purely like the Ace Ventura garbage, because oh my god, Drew, you brought that up. It's hard to watch that movie anymore because that ending is so fucking cringe. I shouldn't even say cringe. It's just embarrassing. Like, I guess it is cringe. It's just embarrassing to watch. I can't. I feel ashamed having it on because it's just so unentertaining and so disgusting.
Oh fuck. Yeah.
However, I will say, I can also see Rin in this trans light as kind of an... I don't want to say as an insult, but it almost seems like you could look at it in a way where, like, Atlas was like, oh, you guys didn't like, how we talked about trans people, huh? Let's put a supposed trans person in there. Actually, they're a fucking alien. Sorry, that's how we view trans people, as not even human. I think there is a way you could look at it that way,
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that, especially for Japan, it's like, it is like more progressive, but I think it definitely is like more in the middle where it's like a big step forward, but like they're still lagging behind like a lot of like queer study and understanding about that sort of thing. Yeah. So I definitely think all of this like falls in the middle. And I think it's like Ren narratively, of course, makes themselves like fall in like the big Marianas Trench gray area like I was talking about. Yeah, there's a very clear negative reading of this because it's so fucking weird. And Vincent makes himself looks like such a fucking like loser for this. Because he's like, oh, maybe I do really like this person because maybe I secretly like cock. And Johnny is like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? What the hell? And then punches him in the fucking face. It's so, just everything about it is like really weird. Like, I don't know. Maybe I would have preferred Vanilla Catherine just for that reason. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here's something that just hit me actually, and it's weird because I think we discussed it we were playing the game. But even a more disturbing factor with Rin is how young coded she is. In Alien,
I have a
we don't know, but it's that thing where, again, it's a stereotype of Japan where they have these characters that look really young and they're sexualized, but they're like, oh no, it's actually a 1,000-year-old dragon, so it's okay.
Dave, I have a whole paragraph on that. So if we're ready to talk about like Rin as a character overall, Dave, so I'm going to ask you a question, but first, I really wanted to, I wanted to have this said first. I fundamentally don't understand why they did this creepy infantilization with Rin's character. Is that how you pronounce that? She's like supposed to be like one of the people you want to receive like these lewd texts from, and like in some pictures it's like okay, but when you go to their apartment, right, it's fucking kids' toys everywhere.
Yep.
What am I supposed to take from this? That this is that this person has the brain of a child? Well, I don't feel comfortable. I really don't see what would change if they were a quirky person. And I think I have here, like you walk in the apartment and they have like weird furniture, like they have like a hammock as a bed. They have a pet squirrel. Again, you can drive home the point that like Rin is unorthodox and quirky. That's fine because it still hits the themes of, it doesn't like matter, like the appearance doesn't matter, you have to follow your heart, all that kind of stuff. They could still hit that, but you don't need to do this thing of like, oh, I'm gonna get ice cream because I'm a 14-year-old, or even less than that. Like she's acting like a 10-year-old. It's so fucking weird to
literally.
Me.
And there's the thing where Vincent's in his early 30s, so part of the plot of the game or the themes of the game is like feeling listless and unmoored in your early 30s, and that's when you need to commit to people because you got to keep the human race alive, which I know you'll probably want to get into later. But
yes.
so his girlfriend Catherine, from my point of view, definitely like around 30. Catherine with a C, she's made to look like maybe mid-20s, but she could easily be Vincent's age. She just looks after herself. But then you've got Rin, who, if we're being generous, I would say is 21.
Yeah. Oh, if you're being really fucking generous, Jesus Christ, Dave.
If you're making Rule 34, you're right. She's 21. Like it's embarrassing. Like, why do they choose this?
On the other hand, they're trying to, so they're literally saying that Ren is childlike on account of the whole amnesia thing. But then just like the whole appearance, like, and the aesthetics of the room goes along with it. And then Dork, obviously, you can talk about how like she literally talks about Vincent as if it's like
Vincent?
a parent
Vincent?
or something. It never comes across as romantic at all.
Yeah, I kind of got older brother, younger sister vibes, and I knew it wouldn't happen because the game's about romance, but I'm like, it would be so cool to just keep that relationship open because that's perfectly healthy.
I agree, it's healthy, but I would also go as far to say that, you know what? I'll just ask you, Dave. Right? How do you think Rin as an addition on the whole? Do you think it was a positive for the game?
You know, I do, for a couple reasons. One of them is it adds another mystery to the game, which I think is interesting. Now, the mystery ends up being completely fucking bonkers, but, you know, just the idea of, as Vincent is getting embroiled in this, you know, I'm cheating on my girlfriend who I've been with 5 years, although every time we talk, it's like we don't have anything in common, so I don't understand what the fuck is going on. But yeah, it's that thing where the amnesia. I mean, okay, amnesia is such a trope by now, but yeah, he runs into this young girl who doesn't know who she is. Seems like she's being chased by a fucking monster, which, you know, for the game, I thought that tied into the nightmare, especially because she shows up in the nightmare, which, again, that's another mystery. Oh, why is Rin able to show up in the nightmare? That's interesting. I'm going to be looking forward to seeing the answer to that, which never happened.
Not with your ending.
Yeah.
No, sir.
And then, you know, there is a bit of silliness with how awful she is at the piano at the start. So, you know, that's kind of a tired trope as well. But it was fun, you know, compared to everything else the game throws at you. It's like, at least that's fun.
and that ties into a new gameplay mechanic where she plays the piano to like slow the falling of the bottom row of blocks if you're having trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, I think it was probably difficult as well to take a game where you had a complete story, albeit with branching paths, and you have to insert a completely new character into that. Yeah, that's tough. But you know what? Despite how weird and nonsensical the answers to the questions of Rin ended up being, and all the problematic stuff for her, I think her inclusion makes for a better game.
Oh, all right, good. I apologize, Drew. You are not going to be involved in this conversation, but I will go to bat on the opposite end. I think this actually makes it a way worse game. Because as like we've all kind of said in our private messaging thing, and I've kind of alluded to it in this podcast already, how do we all feel about Vincent?
I actually feel two completely different ways about Vincent, because throughout the whole first half of the game, I really agree with Dave that he was really, really fucking annoying and wishy-washy and spineless and pathetic and stupid. But the second that he like has some fucking agency and he like goes crazy standing up for himself to the bartender for the final thing. I mean, at night I liked him plenty because his voice clips during the puzzle sections are fucking funny as hell. But and like they're clearly showing that he's like growing to become a better leader, and specifically because of the nightmare sections, which unfortunately goes away for most of the daytime shit because nobody remembers what happened in the nightmare section until way later, which means that he reverts back to basic. So basically Vincent is split into two characters. So when they become one and Vincent in the real world puts together that he's just being fucked with by supernatural beings in the real world and like starts sticking the fuck up for himself and being badass, then like I turn a corner with him. But throughout most of the actual plot, Vincent is a fucking loser, and so I despise that version of him.
I think I just want to say I'm never gonna trust Drew on anything ever again, right? Because listen, I was the one in our chat who was trying to defend Vincent a little bit, and I was getting kind of ganged up on. And you said a few times, I can't wait, like, you know, because at the time we were thinking about, like, ranking all these characters. I can't wait until we say, like, Vincent, he's the worst. Yeah, we're all going to say it at once. That's literally all I was asking for right there, Drew, was for you to both say awful. Because I was building to a point. And instead, you provided, like, some awesome, like, nuanced insight. I appreciate it.
What can I say? I'm a creature of nuance, as it were.
Yes, and... So,
You're such a bitch.
Anyway, so on the whole, though, like, Vincent, like, for the majority of the game, at least when he's in, like, the daytime section, he's not a very good guy, right? And we're able to tell, like, he should be able to communicate better, even if you know, like, don't necessarily think it's all his fault, that kind of thing. He's not a very, like, you know, likable guy. But with, like, the Rin stuff, like, every single interaction when it comes to Rin, he's, like, an entirely different person. I don't even know who this Vincent is. He behaves so nice and kind and goes, oh, yeah. And here's the reason why I think this like, version of Catherine isn't as cohesive. In the classic version, and as it's said in this one, too, he is in a very, like, a holding pattern in his life. He's with Catherine with a K. He doesn't want to commit to her. But he doesn't want anything in his life to change, and he's not, you know, he isn't the happiest person though either. So he's a very, like, boring. He doesn't do anything else besides go to work and go to the bar. That's all he does. All his life, like, he doesn't have a very exciting life. And then in Catherine Classic, it's just, here's this new girl I apparently slept with. Holy shit, all this drama. I have to make choices now. What's going on? Which Catherine am I supposed to go with? What the hell am I going to do? And I think that all makes, you know, like, thematic sense. You're always that Vincent, like, in the daytime anyway, and you're always, like, going back and forth between these two girls. Like, that's the whole premise, is he's having to choose. He's having to finally take control of his life in some way. Not all the endings are great, but even still. And then with all this Rin stuff, it's like, I don't even know who this guy is. It's like, oh, so you aren't, you know, in, like, a rut where you're always unhappy. You seem to be very kind to this random person. This isn't you in any other scene, you know? Like, it and everything, all the interactions with Rin just feel like, oh, so you like, do have, you know, the capacity to have more than just, like, a work and bar life, but you just choose, you know, not, or it's so hard to, you know.
Yeah. I think the intended concept is that whereas both K Catherine and C Catherine tend to bring out or reinforce more toxic traits from Vincent that he needs to, like, work through and deal with, whereas with Rin, they kind of, the idea is supposed to be that they click right away and that Rin brings out, like, a new sense of optimism in him. But yeah, I do agree that the whole point is kind of spoiled when you add, like, a third, and especially a third character of Rin's archetype. Vincent becomes a completely different person when talking to Rin. Whereas it is far more cohesive when you're just focusing on the other two girls.
I'd also say, like, in terms of the grand scheme, also, I'll say that I also agree that's the idea, but execution-wise, it kind of falls flat in my opinion.
Yeah.
For all the reasons we've already said. But I'll also say, on, like, a grander scale, as I've said, it isn't as cohesive. But even, like, Dave, as you pointed out one time, even on, like, a micro scale, like, from like, scene to scene, you know, you're able to tell, like, when all the Rin stuff shows up, because it's jarring as fuck. And if you remember, Dave, you were saying, like, there was a really weird edit where, like, they went from everyone, like, you know, hearing her piano playing and it was really bad, to, like, a jump cut to, like, just the bar randomly. And you're like, oh, that was kind of jarring. Because almost all her scenes are like that.
Yeah, they probably could have integrated her better, but as I said, I imagine trying to shoehorn, you know, like, a third thread into this tale was probably quite difficult, and that they didn't quite succeed is evidence of that.
I think that they didn't quite succeed, but at the same time, I can't hate it. Again, if every game I ever really liked, you know, like, had this treatment where it's kind of like in the middle of, like, a remake remaster but with more content in it, like, I don't want to keep saying, guys, I'm so sorry, but if, like, the first Dead Rising game had this, right, where there was, like, I'm just saying, I'm happy that they each exist, but I will say I think that Catherine Classic is the better game, but I appreciate that they both exist, if that makes sense.
It's something that like Atlas always does on the whole.
Oh yeah, it is. You're right.
Because like obviously, so Persona 4 Golden is shockingly parallel to this because the biggest addition to that from Persona 4 Original is that Marie character that you might have seen, Dork, who pays off in like a full extra month added onto the game after the main story ends.
Is she like in like the limbo or like in like the limo thing?
Yeah, she's the goth girl in the limo.
Oh, I was wondering about her. I'm like, wait, everyone's going to see her today? Who is this? This chick? Yeah. I didn't realize she was a
so
character.
Marie is tacked on to the Golden port. They always do this thing where they create an enhanced port a few years after the original. Whether or not Reload gets one, I genuinely have no fucking clue. But like, so they always like tack on something that like they integrate into the main plot kind of, but then it ends up making things a little like 10% more messy and weird.
Mm-hmm.
Did Royal do that to 5?
Royal does, because it adds a full new character, and then they have a full post-game scenario that they call the third semester that I don't need to get into right now. But I will say Royal does at least like keep all of that mostly separate, and the stuff that they do tweak in the main story with one of the new characters that they add at least doesn't get in the way like barely at all, and then establishes it for that like full post game scenario that's like it's like a different episode that just like continues on right after like the final boss of 5 basically. So like I think 5 is definitely probably the best example of Atlas doing something like this. But obviously, Catherine Full Body is more alongside like Persona 4 Golden and just like they literally just added a new character and tried to just squeeze it in and be like, this is the normal story and you can't tell and we're going to gaslight you about it.
That's funny. I mean, yeah, I can totally see that. One more thing I wanted to say about Rin as a character, and we kind of already touched on it, but it truly do be wild, all of her writing, because literally I would put money on the fact that a good 15% to 20% of words, like spoken by Rin include the word Vincent. Like, Vincent. Literally,
Vincent.
If there's supposed to be a connection there, I mean, even when I got the true ending, I wrote this down in all caps. Even in Rin's true ending, their first words are Vincent. LMAO, like, what the fuck? That's all they say.
That's so goofy.
Like,
yeah, Rin's like, and the voice performance doesn't help either, because the voice actor like kind of says every line the exact same way too.
Because like, okay, so like I have it down here too. They're supposed to be accepting Vincent for who he is, but I mean, like their interactions have been like a few minutes here and there over the course of a week, and most of it consisted of, Vincent, you're so remarkable, and Vincent being like, yeah, you're so carefree and neat. I mean, like, taking it seriously, you just can't take it seriously. Like, fucking Meryl and Snake had more varied conversations,
I don't get it, but that's so true.
You don't get it? Meryl and you, oh my god.
I thought you were talking... No, wait.
See,
no,
Drew, here are the downsides of yes and. I didn't know to correct you.
No, I literally thought you were referring to some sort of pop culture character named Marilyn Snake. So I didn't...
See, in full display, I was like, no way, I shouldn't correct them. What they're trying to do is do a bit. Okay, yeah, you're right. Fucking asshole.
I'm genuinely just fucking stupid. That's my bad.
It's literally one of the only anyway. So yeah. I just really, and again with me, I had the true Rin ending, so I got to see more of it than you did.
Yippee.
And yeah, it's just like. Also, I wouldn't say, I don't think it helps because, like, Rin, I, like, looked up her voice actor, and she hasn't really, like, done much of anything else, I'd say, whereas the entire English cast is fucking stacked, right?
Yeah.
Fucking Troy Baker is amazing as Vincent, and Vincent isn't even, like, a very good character, but I think that was part of why I want to defend him. I just love Troy Baker's performance in this game so much. It's just like, almost every line he says is like, okay, this is kind of funny. Or especially, as you were saying, Drew, in the nightmare sequences, he has so many good lines there.
He's like, yeah, or whatever the fuck. Yeah, it's so good. He's just so funny in the nightmare sections. But he's just so good in the Troy Baker doesn't voice Ryuji in Persona 5, but they do like the similar kind of thing where they add like a lot of like very natural sounding like stutters into the delivery. So it just like really makes the character feel like more real. Like every time Vincent freaks out, I 100% buy it, even though I'm like, dude, can you fucking shut up and think for 2 seconds and stand up for yourself? Because like the stutters are just so good that it like completely sells it.
And I'd also like the visual too. Like it looks like anytime he has like a psychological, he has to like think about what's going on. Oh my god, the way his eyes. I think you said like you went cross-eyed.
Yeah.
Like seriously, like you know, with his voiceover and the visuals, it's like holy shit. This is like Vincent is taking this seriously as fuck. He's losing it in his mind.
When his jaw drops as well, you know, like when he first finds Catherine in his bed.
That was comical to an amazing degree.
That's the other thing I'll say about like them practicing for HD is by focusing on a lot of cutscenes as well. They really put in the fucking effort with the character animation for the time, especially because Vincent especially is animated so goddamn well, and he's so fucking funny to watch.
Yeah, and it's so all the situations he's placed in. I think I even like talked about it with you guys over Discord. That whole, you know, like comedy of errors thing where like there was the morning where Catherine with a K tried to come like knock on his door, but he had Catherine with a C in his bedroom, and he had to go, it's my landlady, you know, out in the hall. I have to go talk to her, and you know, and then he's like, oh, actually in there, it's my boss. He's really sick. Like I just love this fucking like sitcom stupid goofy shit that Vincent has to work around. It's fucking amazing.
It is. Every time that I was messaging you while watching cutscenes, it's because I was like slamming down on like the PlayStation home button because anytime one small event would happen in any of these cutscenes, I was like, dude, I'm gonna be fucking sick. I'm gonna throw up from stress, dude. So I had to exit to the home menu to be like, guys, can you believe this shit? What the fuck? Because I was like, I actually felt like I was being like pulled into the fucking 7 circles of hell alongside Vincent with all of these fucking crazy because like every day has like a new, because obviously the whole story, I can't believe we haven't mentioned this, even though you literally beautifully paid tribute to it at the very beginning of this very podcast. But like the whole framing device is that like we're watching like a melodrama, and so like that's like obviously why all these stressful things are happening is because it's just supposed to be like one thing on top of a fucking another for Vincent, because that's like how these stories are structured on TV. But they're like actually really fucking stressful scenarios of comedy of errors. But then there's the actual stressful stuff because Catherine's like, I'm fucking pregnant. And then it's like, holy shit. And after Vincent cheated on her the first time, and then other Catherine is like, by the way, if you cheat on me, I will strangle you to death and I will fucking die in real life. And then the fucking ants start pouring into the cake, and it's just like, oh my god, I'm gonna fucking pass out, dude. Oh. Like, if Vincent gets found out now, I'm like, oh my god, I'm fucking grabbing and pulling my fucking hair out. So, I hate Vincent, but the storytelling is really good.
I think that even though, you know, like, Vincent is not a good guy and he should have communicated, I'll also say that the story itself, while not, I don't want to say like it's bad, it's just very much like I can't take it too seriously. But not only does it have some really cool like foreshadowing moments that I'll like talk about in the future, but I also think that they tried to give a lot of excuses for why this keeps going, it keeps unraveling, because pretty much it all starts when he sees Catherine, you know, in his bed. He's freaking out. What the hell's going on? And then she immediately Drew, this is going to blow your mind. She immediately leaves before he can even tell her he has a girlfriend because she has to go to the dentist.
Bro, what the fuck, dude.
I totally
can't
forgot
handle
until
this shit.
just now. So for anyone who hasn't played, eventually, like on day 5, I think, we get a call from someone, and his name is Steve, I guess, and he's like, "Have you been seeing Catherine?" And he ends up being a fucking dentist. So I think me and Drew just had the realization, oh my god, I wonder if she was going to go see that guy.
And let's just say he's a gigantic piece of shit as well, because apparently, like when Vincent finds out he died, the people next to him at the sushi bar, one of them's his neighbor, is like, yeah, he was a real piece of work. He was cheating on his wife, and he would brag about it to everyone.
True.
Oh my god,
yeah,
that's
awful
so shitty.
Person. Way worse than Vincent, like, if I'm being honest.
No, yeah, even if Vincent is like a scumbag, at least every day at the bar he's like, oh fuck, I'm such a dumbass.
Yeah.
But I was gonna, so like that's only like a small part of it. The whole like she had to leave right away to go to the dentist apparently. So he already has like oh shit, I wasn't able to tell her in time. So I won't go through all of the specifics, but basically every single day it adds on like another thing. Like, oh, you know, like now like Vincent's freaking out about this. And I think on like day 2 or something, I think is when she's like, "You're not seeing someone else because I'll murder you." And it's like, Jesus Christ, now he's fearing for his life from this chick. So that's also an extra layer of, I can't communicate. I agree that Vincent should have, but at the same time, you know, I can understand his fear, especially in that moment where she's threatening him.
Well, because she actually like starts like choking him, like not in a sexy way, like for real.
So here's a funny thing about, because you know the thing is she only exists for the people she's playing with, right? Mm-hmm. So only the dentist can see her when she's there. As a black woman, I believe, because that's why Vincent was so confused when he probed Steve for more information. So it's really funny where the scene where he breaks up with C. Catherine in the bar, she flees to the bathroom to cry because she's had like her heart broken. And Vincent follows her in to like, you know, apologize. It's, look, I'll do anything except be with you. I just can't be with you anymore. And she's like, what the fuck is this? And then she starts beating the shit out of him.
She beats the fuck out of him.
And
everyone else in the bar could hear it.
Yes, well,
really?
They just hear him yelling like a fucking crazy person. He's like, no weapons! Ah! And then he's on his own, like with his head down. He's like, leave me alone. And it makes sense now once I learned what Catherine was and that she wasn't there for everyone else. But you're like, he's got no blood on him or anything like that. So they just must think he's like having a mental breakdown.
Yeah, this whole week, right?
He does actually start low-key having a mental breakdown like the whole day until he confronts the bartender. Like everyone's like, dude, you're actually being psychotic right now. He's like, no, I'm fucking not, guys. It was fucking real.
I hated that scene in the bathroom so much with Orlando when he's like, she's not in my phone anymore. And then it goes on for like 5 more minutes.
Yeah, that was a bit much. Wait, I just remembered the one scene, like after he breaks up with C. Catherine and he's in his apartment and he's, yeah, I can let Catherine in. And then C. Catherine like fucking appears behind him.
Yeah.
That's when I had to slam down on the PlayStation button and just kind of fucking sit there for 5 minutes because I was like, I can't handle this right now.
And Dork has a really cool version of this scene, but Drew, in yours, was it like mine where she brings out a knife and tries to stab Catherine? And then she falls on the knife and suddenly there's a dead succubus in their house.
Yeah, that was my transition into the like the little escort puzzle, yeah.
Mm-mm. Now, Dork, I don't know if you've told Drew, you told me what happened in your scene.
Yeah, so this is real fucked up. So again, so there's like this little scene that plays out, I think on like day 8, because it like leads into night 8 where you have to do the escort one, right? And of course, all the horrible, the whole cutscene is obviously like a dream. You know, it's part of the nightmare. It isn't real. But you don't know that initially. It just seems like a normal, you know, it just seems like this is happening in the daytime, which is really cool. So Drew, in my scene, right? Oh god, it's genuinely fucked. I'm gonna have to send this to you afterwards, okay? Basically, so like Rin still isn't back. Like, you know, he's still hoping that she comes back. And he's like, oh, like she won't like respond to any of my things, or whatever. And then he hears her piano like playing like a note, boom, 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 and he's like, "What the hell? Is she
Holy
back?"
shit.
And then he goes over into her apartment, and then he stumbles on to Catherine with a C over like Rin's bloody body on the piano, stabbing
What?
Rin over and over and over, and fucking like Rin has like lifeless eyes right now, and it's just like, what? It's gruesome as shit. And then Catherine goes, "You shouldn't have brought her into there," or something like that. Like, you should have, whatever. And then it's like, what the fuck's going on? And eventually he tries to run away. Then Catherine with a K shows up with a
Oh my
chainsaw, and then both. Then both, okay, so like Catherine with a C tries to kill Vincent with a knife, and Catherine with a K tries to kill him with a chainsaw, and then they fight each other for a little bit, and then he
Holy
eventually
fuck.
holds them both off, and he escapes out of there, and then like Rin comes down out of a portal going, "Vincent, oh my gosh, you gotta come with me right now, we got an escort mission, let's go, Morty," you know.
So
it's
Ren
like,
is in the escort mission then? That's fucking crazy.
yeah, so like in mine, you escort Rin. I think you always escort Catherine with a K unless you do the Rin ending, in which case it's Rin. Because obviously it wouldn't make
Interesting.
sense for you to escort, the fucking succubus chasing you. So that
Yeah.
makes sense. But yeah, like that scene, I think it almost made everything worth it, even after I had decided that I think Catherine Classic is better. That scene's fucking, it's beyond bonkers. And I don't mean like beyond bonkers in the I'm an alien way, but in the holy shit, this game, it doesn't hold back sometimes, you know?
Yeah, but that also does leave, but the traditional version of that scene it takes place before like the climax of like what happens with Vincent's relationship with Catherine. So do you like want to talk about everything that happens with her?
Sure, let's just talk about the actual story now. So Vincent cheats on Catherine with a K, and then he goes like to meet up with her that first day, and he's like, "Oh, gotta hide this."
Can I just ask though, because I wonder if we are all on the same page. So it turns out that Catherine with the C is a succubus, and when she's playing with a guy, no one else can see her. So there's this thing, it's alluded to, but it's never really focused on. But there's this thing where technically Vincent never cheated because she doesn't exist. But Vincent has this line when he's trying to make up with Catherine where he's like, "Yeah, but it was in my mind. I thought I was cheating, so it's just as bad." What's your stance on this?
I see. Okay, here's the thing. I totally agree. So I have thought this whole time, even though you two were fighting against me, and I'm like, listen, I'm not going to win right now, because I couldn't say, Drew, she's a succubus. He had no chance from the beginning. I promise. I couldn't say that, right? So I was just like, all right. I personally don't think that the first night is his fault, because not only was he blackout drunk, I don't even think he was drunk. He seems to drink all the time. I think this whole like nightmare thing is like a demon spell thing, and that's the whole point or whatever. I don't think he cheated on her at all, cheated with Catherine in terms of sex. However, if you go down the Catherine route, you send a lot of flirty texts to Catherine with a C.
Yeah.
You talk to her, you emotionally cheat on your girlfriend 1000%.
There's like zero fucking evidence there that Catherine with a C actually has sex with Vincent, because he blacks out every fucking single time, and she can fucking appear and vanish at will. So who's to say that she doesn't just show up for like a few minutes in the morning and then go warp over to like one of her other 50 guys that's in the nightmare or whatever, So like by the time Vincent realizes he's just being fucked with, like there's no fucking evidence to just like, yeah, he's not like, he's definitely not physically cheating on Catherine with a K in my eyes. I ended up with an ending with Catherine with a C. And that 100% has to like start with emotional cheating, because Catherine with a C is like, "Oh, I didn't actually think that I would actually fall for you, but I did." So that 100% is actual real evidence of emotional cheating.
I agree. And, I suppose I don't know how much you guys were like feeding into it, but every single time I got any kind of text or like lewd image from like Catherine with a C, I was like, hey, yeah, I want to see more of that. That's what I'd reply to.
Fuck
so,
yeah.
I'd be like,
Yeah.
ooh, that's the spot. I want to see more, that kind of thing. Because I'm like, after a while, after I was like firmly in the Rin, after like 6 or so, like day 6, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense anymore, so I'm just not going to even respond to Catherine anymore. Up until then, though, I was all like, these two fucking Poindexters want to be like, oh, I don't want to see lewd images on Vincent's phone. I want to be a good guy.
Okay, never once did I complain about that. Be so real. Real.
I just mean because I know you guys were kind of circling like the bluer end of the spectrum with your choices. Anymore.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing as well. I hated having to go to the bathroom to look at her pictures. And if she doesn't exist, who's to say he couldn't have just looked at them in the bar?
He didn't know that, though.
Yeah, you know.
No, he was being ashamed, but yeah.
Here's so talking about the text, I might as well bring it up because it ended up being a really interesting experiment. I put no thought into my responses to when people talk to me or to the text. I would always just choose whatever the default choice was to see what would happen. Now, it ended up putting me pretty much at the end of the blue spectrum, the law spectrum. But it also included me being there were some times when Catherine with a K would, nag at Vincent, and my responses were actually him standing up for himself, which never fucking happened in the cutscenes. I'm like, so wait, how can I do this? And every time he did, she would apologize for being too harsh.
As she fucking should. Sorry.
So here's the thing.
real.
I guess I only found out when we were trading endings before the podcast that I didn't get any of the true. I thought I got the true ending, but it turns out I only got the good ending for Catherine with a K, which, the good endings are like the true endings, except they kind of suck. They're not as good. But yeah, I guess that was because I didn't go full in consciously. I was just whatever came up. That was how I responded, except for the confessional. I chose whatever I thought was better in those.
Yeah, I don't think we actually firmly talked about it. How did you all feel that your choices in the confessional and in the dialogue? Well, obviously, I suppose Dave, you just kind of went through it. But Drew, did you actually feel like all your choices were one, genuinely affecting the game, and two, even matched up to what alignment it went with?
Kind of, because I wasn't sure. I almost wish the gauge was the graphic for the gauge was a little bit wider, so then when you would make a choice, it would wiggle a little bit more one way or the other. Because I ended up floating around the center, and I think that's how I kind of ended up with a Catherine ending, because I would just be very wishy-washy at different points in the story. Because like I said, I ended up kind of trying to roleplay as Vincent, or try to empathize as with Vincent. So with the text messages, I would answer as I thought Vincent would, trying to hide his infidelity from Catherine with a K, and sucking up to her because he feels like he wants to be responsible for her and the baby. And then, being kind of flirty or a little bit irritated with Catherine with a C, depending on the day. And then, whenever Ren would send me a cute little photo, I'd be like, don't fucking send me these. I don't want to see them. Which is the one time I didn't roleplay. But when it came to the confessionals, there I would try to answer a little bit more honestly. Or some of the nights I was like, no, I feel like I want to lean a little bit more red. Because I ended up fucking hating Catherine with a K. So I would just try to lean more into the red. So I would intentionally pick the really fucking shitty shallow answer or whatever. So it really just depended. I was very wishy-washy throughout my whole playthrough, to be honest.
I think that's almost to be expected, at least in some way, because I will agree. I don't think it's clear enough which side you went with, because it's such a quick little boom boom and then it's gone, and you're like, wait, was that more on the red or the blue? I couldn't even tell which way it went. But also I don't think a lot of them even matched up. There was one time I was on the phone with Catherine with a K at the bar. All those phone calls are just absolutely bizarre, by the way. I mean, I've been in a long-term relationship, and I don't get a call that says, hey, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I shouldn't have called, bye. I'm like, what are you talking about, Catherine? Like, we just text. Like, anyway, at least I have to assume initially in Catherine Classic that they kind of, like, wanted you to be kind of wishy-washy. However, I have reason to believe that most people went with Catherine with a C. And here's my reasoning. Because in Full Body, they added in some flashback scenes to make Catherine with a K not seem so shitty. Because they added in, like, oh, here's how they got together. Here's how they used to be. And I think that was in reaction to players not wanting to even associate with her as much. Because they made Catherine with a K, like, so not only kind of, like, bland, but also, like, at times antagonistic for almost no reason, you know?
Yeah.
Did you have any thoughts about Catherine with a K, or did you like her the whole way through?
It's so weird because of how much Vincent sucks. You see, like, Catherine with a K, I think she's quite attractive. She's got a great career, and you know, obviously in the flashbacks we get kind of, oh, she seems like insecure, especially that one in high school where she's like chasing after some guys, you know, and she's making lunch for them, and I'm like, okay, so she obviously doesn't think much of herself. That must be why she's with Vincent. But that was kind of my thing the whole time. I'm like, why are you even trying to salvage this? You know, you seem so much better than this. But then, yeah, her behavior, like the whole pregnant thing. I think it was you, Dork, or Drew, one of you talking about, like, is she lying about being pregnant? Because a lot of her dialogue, especially in like the I don't know what to call them, because, you know, the whole game's fucking animated, but
like
you know what I mean, like
the in-engine cutscenes, you mean?
No, the anime cutscenes.
Oh, the anime cutscenes,
like the FMV, like here's a video kind of thing.
In those, you know, she always seems so. Well, actually, I'm mainly thinking about like the conversation where she tells Vincent she's pregnant, and then it's like, do you have something you want to tell me? Because obviously, like, she's smart. Right. Even at the end, she goes, I knew you were cheating the whole time. You were acting weird. I mean, but then why does that play into her, you know, her behavior with the pregnancy and wanting to tell Vincent things? Like, it just never, I understand, obviously, it was for the melodrama to keep raising the stakes and, you know, wacky scenarios. But yeah, it just, from both sides, it's like, it feels like neither of you actually care about this relationship. So what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. Yeah, it becomes increasingly fucking frustrating when every time she enters a scene, she's like, hey, do you have time to, like, talk for 2 seconds? And Vincent's like, nope, bye. And then, like, nothing ever fucking happens. Very clearly, they're very much out of, like, love with each other. They don't even like each other that much. And then even... And I would even say in all the cutscenes where Astaroth is like, I will now show you your memories of Chris past. And you, like, see their relationship take bloom and stuff. It really just comes across as both of them being fucking really insecure because they're like 18 or 20 or whatever, and then like they get together in their like first relationship sort of thing, and now they're just like kind of stuck with each other, and both of them are like kind of just manipulating each other because they don't know how to like live outside of a relationship sort of thing. So really the only reason to to like try to lean more towards pleasing Catherine to end up with her is to like take responsibility for Vincent's actions that didn't even happen. But it is more so like you want to see Vincent like turn around and be like, you know what? No, I do want to take responsibility for hurting this person by like staying with them like in a good way. But I don't know. And I'm going to be real, Dave. You can keep Catherine with a K. You can keep her. Like, I don't find her very attractive. You can have her. I don't give a fuck.
Fair enough. Look, I've got a thing for girls with glasses.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But with the Catherine though, like, so there's a scene. Maybe you all got it because it probably seems like it's part of like any playthrough, where Catherine breaks up with Vincent. She comes over, she's finally able to talk to him, and she's like, I know things have been going on. I'm actually not pregnant. You obviously don't like me. So you know what? Let's just break up. And, you know, Vincent goes and walks in the rain, but then he kind of, I guess, he starts to kind of understand that he's been really, really shitty about this. And I was hoping that the game kind of ended there. Like that was like the Catherine good ending. You know, the idea that, oh, she got away from him and he realized that he'd fucked up, but now he's a better person and they can both move on. But I will say I did like my ending because when Vincent makes his big speech to Catherine at the end and they get together, then there's like a scene, with them in bed together planning the wedding. And you can see that they're both firmly in love. They're actually talking like how a couple should be talking together. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Whatever happened, I don't know, but they're at least in love, so this works. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you know what I love about your ending that would have made it better, though? Is there's that part at the end where Catherine is, like, literally sitting on Vincent's cock, but then his stomach rumbles, and they're like, and then Catherine's like, oh, it wasn't me. I think it would have been way funnier if they put, like, a little, like, sound. So it's like he can't.
Yeah. Fuck's sake.
Anyway, that's all I had to say about that.
Yes, and
don't worry, I'll put a sound effect. It'll be okay.
I mean, so they have like the freedom endings too, where like he decides, he needs to be like a better person, but also like with Catherine is the wrong way. And also, and one of them is fucking hysterical, by the way, where he confronts Boss, and I'm talking like this is Metal Gear Solid. He confronts. He confronts Thomas
Mutton.
Yeah, that's the guy. He confronts him and he goes, well, hey, and he's like, oh, I guess you win, and if you don't want any girls, whatever. He's like, yeah, I suppose I didn't get a relationship out of this, but you do owe me, though. He's like, I'm sorry? Okay, like, yeah, I want money. And the boss goes, this seems highly, okay.
He's so real
how much?
for that.
And Vincent goes, 5. And he's like, 500, I suppose I could, 50,000. Oh, it's this big anime shit. It's so funny.
That's so goofy. I need to watch that.
Yeah,
it's really good.
I love the boss's first form when he's a boss, when he's in his lounge chair with the Bugs Bunny-esque revolver
and the crane. Like he flies around on a big like crane like a movie director, and he has a big revolver. It's so funny.
Like the only other boss that I can remember, because it's really fucking funny, is Baby with a Chainsaw.
Baby with a Chainsaw has appeared. This is the killer.
Baby,
do not die.
Yeah, it's the killer. Do not die.
Do not edge.
Edge. I think you happen to mention Boss in the chair, and I have to say, this is a thing I was kind of thinking about when it came to the Rin ending, because I had a full day's worth of extra content and levels, guys. Just saying. No, I think honestly, the pacing of the game, I would say the last third of the game kind of drags. So honestly, I was kind of thinking another night. I thought I was done with the game, but okay. It was, even though all the levels were fun, I liked the game, I was still kind of thinking, all right, you're really dragging here. But the boss is an angel, right? It's like a floating. Again, it's like what as Dave put it. Rin's brother was 3 aliens in a trench coat or something, and that's what they were cosplaying as an angel essentially. But it's this huge figure, and it's floating around, and it's supposed to be heavenly. And I thought it was a really cool contrast because Boss is in, as you said, Drew, a fucking crane or something. Right? He has to have a machine to be a spectator in his own game. Whereas, he's now seen as way less powerful as this angel who actually has control of things and is able to float all around. So I just thought even in that little thing there's a slight this little boss guy isn't that cool because he can't even fly in his own world. He's got to use a stupid crane chair. And he also goes, die! Why won't you die? Die! Why won't you die? It's so funny.
It's so goofy. It's the most video game ass shit.
I just want to bring this up now because I don't know when I'll get a chance. But with the angel or with Astaroth being there, or even the boss, once again, an Atlas game, but more to the point, a Japanese game, ends up with you fighting God.
Yeah, fighting a God, yeah.
True.
But at least in this case, it does that thing that Atlas does this constantly, where they draw from more Western religious symbols. Like, obviously the whole thing is based around like Christian concepts of like, there's often a metaphor of Jesus Christ being a shepherd. You know, you go to church, you go sit in the confessional, you confess your sins. They got all the fucking classical music that plays in every puzzle stage and drives me fucking insane. That sort of thing. And then obviously, you know, they're basing their whole climax around being like, yeah, you're like going through the circles of hell and then you ascend up to heaven. And that's why the Rin final boss is an angel, because you've ascended up to heaven. That sort of thing. So it even if it is like, oh yeah, you're fighting God, like it's based like in a real world ideology more so. So I think it makes it stand out at least a little bit in that way.
Sure, and you're also climbing the Tower of Babel, right? I don't know.
Yeah. That too. Yeah.
So we kind of talked about Catherine with a K, but like the whole story overall has some really cool like foreshadowing moments that I just kind of wanted to point out really quick.
Okay.
So like Drew, the whole ants thing. I have something I could say, but if you're gonna say it, I'll have you do it.
No, you please go ahead, because I probably missed something.
Well, I just think it's really interesting. So like we said, you know, the ants were in the level prior to when the ant cutscene in the morning happens. But in that cutscene, I thought what was really interesting was that, of course, Catherine with the C is there, again, like to his surprise. And she grabs, you know, like the thing that's festering in the one day that's collected all these ants. And then she throws it out. And I'm thinking, is that not just like a analogy for what's happening with the relationship as a whole? Like the relationship, like, you know, this is an object that Catherine with a K gave, you know, to Vincent, and it's now spoiling within one day, and then Catherine with the C is taking it on herself to get rid of it out of Vincent's life. And I'm like, damn, not bad, you know, that little scene there was good. I also liked, there was a part where, like, Rin was playing piano next door, and, like, Catherine with a C was there, and she had said, oh, my head hurts, you know, I hate that racket. And it makes sense because for some reason, like, Rin's piano playing, you know, it like hurts these like demon people for some reason. So I'm like, oh, that's a little cool foreshadowing right there.
That is really interesting, yeah. I think Atlas really do be nailing like the little details. Even if this game is like fucking cuckoo bonkers, like kind of schlocky on purpose, like they do nail those sorts of little things. And I think this is also like when Atlas really started like this definitely feels like it was between Persona 4 Golden and then they took this big step and then they took another big step to like make Persona 5 like pop as much as it did. Like yeah. But dude, that's so crazy. I didn't even think about the whole thing with like Catherine like tossing out the little cake. That's so crazy.
Oh, I mean, it helps. I played the game 3 times now, so I'm able to kind of spot some of these things, which is very fun. Speaking of that,
that's true.
Even like I think on my whole first playthrough, I didn't really try to wash my hands before. And there's anytime you do in the bathroom, you get this little like jump scare, like in the mirror of the boss you're gonna face, and then you have Astaroth going, "Please hurry up." I can't do his voice like you can, Drew, but either way,
it's like, I'll be at the fucking pentagram tonight. I'll see you there.
Pentagon.
I'm at the Pentagon. I'm being held in captivity at Area 51, Vincent.
I thought it was going to be like, this is like a national crisis now. He's going to go for the Pentagon. Like,
I'm going to hit the Pentagon, Vincent. I'll see you there.
Also, I assume, you know, they live in Japan, a Japanese game as well, and you can order sake at the bar. But I just love where it's so nondescript. And in that scene, after Catherine dumps him, when Vincent walks around the city, I forget the line, but he's basically like, why am I living in this fucking dump of a city?
Yeah, and it's like, it looks cool as hell from our angle, bro.
I wish I had a bar like the Stray Sheep I could hang at.
Yeah, all the bars in my area are fucking dog shit. Like the Stray Sheep is like actually a nice place to hang out, and most bars are like fucking horrible.
I mean, let's be fair. The Stray Sheep is apparently what causes the curse, you know, to people. So maybe not. Also, a little like fun little thing about the bar. It has the game Rapunzel in it, right? Which I tried my best because it's got fucking 64 levels, and I was thinking 8 days, perhaps I can do 8 per day. And I will admit, it did teach me some techniques that helped me for remix mode, especially like the 2-block Inazuma twist, essentially. I think I credit like that for helping me like with remix mode overall, but it's just a lot of levels. However, it's interesting how Boss talks about that game in like one of the endings. I think it's one of the Freedom endings, where he's, he asks, oh, like what was that like Rapunzel game thing? Like I haven't seen it in any other bar. Yeah, the people who play that game have a tendency to to end up in the nightmares. And he's like, I've been playing that thing all the time. Are you saying that's the reason? He's like, so.
And if you notice, Toby is the only one out of the friend group who has no interest in that game whatsoever.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he does say that. He's like, yeah, I never saw the appeal, and the guys were getting fucking aggressive over it.
Dude, he has, like, so many V cards for so many things, like he's...
For real.
I haven't punched my fucking Rapunzel V card yet, guys.
My Rapunzel V card. Yeah, on the one hand, love Super Rapunzel aesthetically and conceptually. I like the idea of using the same block pushing gameplay, not just to like climb up really fast, but like just to sit down and like solve a really hard puzzle. But they are really, really freaking hard. And even when you use the hints, they are not very helpful at all. Because I'll be like at the top of a stage, like really stuck on a puzzle, and I'll like pick the hint thing, and it just shows me how to like get started at the start of the stage, which I already fucking figured out. So I literally only got to like stage 10 because eventually I was just like, I give up. And then Vincent's like, no more continues, maybe?
I think I got up to 16 or so, or perhaps 18, and I was like, this is... Again, I played this a few times now, and I'm like, I'm happy to talk about it, like, with each of you, but at the same time, this is eating up a lot of my time to play this. So I'm like, I don't want to spend an extra 4 hours in the Rapunzel game, so I opted to start early.
No, yeah, I dropped out early. I will say though, I fucking love. They really nailed the music for Super Rapunzel because it literally feels like such a little arcade game type of song. Yeah, it's like so fucking perfect.
It has totally gotten in my head. The whole soundtrack. Is it just like a thing with Atlas games where they have good soundtracks, or what?
Dude, they're so fucking good, dude.
Like, of course, the whole like song that plays when you're at the bar, and just there's a whole bunch of like full songs that sound great. But I absolutely adore like the really tense music when you're approaching like the gate for the nightmare every day. Bum 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 bum. You
just really like menacing music because you were talking about how much you fucking... You just really like that type of music because you were talking about how you like the like mystery music in Persona 4 a lot.
It's true. I guess I've already said it. It isn't even like a full song. It just heightens the tension of a very specific moment in the game, and that's its only goal, and it fucking nails it, and
Dork.
Even just that little tune.
Dork. Hey, Dork.
Yes?
Dork. Are you really good at Catherine? Because you're such an edgelord.
That was fucking genius, dude. You've been sitting on that one this whole time, haven't you?
No, it just came up.
That is big brain joke. Because, I didn't laugh, but then I realized, oh my god. That's amazing. Congratulations, Dave.
I will say, soundtrack-wise, probably my favorite tracks probably have to be the ones that play during, the Babel mode. Because there's a couple rock tracks that are really, really great, and I bet especially if they had played while we were doing multiplayer, which they probably did, but I turned my volume way down low. If we could hear it clearly, me and Dork would be like, oh fuck yeah, let's fuck this shit up, I'm gonna do so much better than you or whatever. And then there's this other one that is just this really cool techno song, and it's just yeah, I'm gonna fucking go for this shit. those are definitely like the best songs in the game. Although I do really like the theme song, and like any vocal track in any Atlas game just like kicks ass. So I guess that's to be expected.
Yeah, vocal stuff does it for me. The one I really liked, I mentioned to you both, is the Ode to Joy hardcore version that plays over the credits.
I just realized too, by the way, another thing. I guess I want to ask if you guys even like noticed it. So for me, and also I suppose Dave, because he's also played Catherine Classic. When you play in like the Nightmare stuff, and you're on the platforms with all the sheep. In Catherine Classic, it's always a tense, like foreboding song. It's always, it's always the one that plays when you're in the confessional booth the whole time. I'm pretty sure anyway. Like dun 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 dun. I'm pretty sure it's that one anyway. At the very least, it isn't like Rin's piano playing. And I just think it's interesting how in like Full Body, even if you don't ever go the Rin route, the first 6 days of the Nightmare, it's really pleasant music when you're there, which gives it a whole different vibe, I think. And like Drew, I'm curious then, because you've only played Full Body, was there like a pretty sudden, or I should say like noticeable shift after Rin left, and on all those platforms it wasn't her music anymore?
Yes.
Dave, did you happen to have anything when it came to the music besides the last ending credits thing?
I was trying to think of what the music was when Rin left, and it must just been so nondescript. Like I remember, Drew, you mentioned how much you didn't like the classical music remixes when you were playing the stages, but I remember liking most of them. But none of them actually stick out to me.
Yeah.
Aside from the Ode to Joy one. Here's how I am with most soundtracks, because actually this is a good example. So when I go to score my critique videos, I go to the game's OST, and then I go through piece by piece, and I download all the ones I actually like, right? But because I don't tend to remember music too much unless a piece like really grabs me, I'll be going through, and every time I listen to it, it'll be like, oh, it's this song, like I can instantly make the connection after only hearing, a few notes, but it just never sits in there. So I assume, if you were to play me like all the stuff you really liked right now, it'd be like, oh yeah, that one, I remember that one, and yeah, that one was pretty good. But as it is now, it's like Ode to Joy is there in my head and nothing else. Like Dork, when you went the bum 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 bum, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. But until you sang those notes, it wasn't there. It just came back. So
yeah, it's not like this is the rare soundtrack where I'm not walking away from it being like, hell yeah, I'm gonna be humming the boom 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 boom.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I'm not gonna be walking away from that humming.
You're
this
breaking
shit.
my heart. This is literally one of my. This is like a soundtrack I want on like vinyl. I really like this soundtrack.
Oh no, I like it. I've been listening to a lot of it like nonstop on Spotify like every day at work. I think more so the issue is that a lot of it is like cutscene scores, so whenever that comes up, like I skip it. And then that other kind of thing is like if I'm gonna be like listening to something like just in my spare time, it's gonna be more so like the higher energy stuff that I'm gonna gravitate towards just like putting on so I can focus on work. So I think I'm not gonna put like the scary map music on when I'm trying to like do my job. Listen to something in my headphones, I think, is more so what the issue is.
I'll just say this and the soundtrack is objectively better than Persona 4's.
That's some fighting words.
Wrong, dude. Holy shit. You could not be more wrong. What do you mean objectively better? What the fuck does that even mean?
You're such a fucking troll, Dork.
Yeah, you said that literally just to piss off every Atlas fan in the fucking world.
Dork's playing the fucking game again.
Well played.
Yes, I am a troll.
That's fair.
I don't have
That's
any
fair.
opinion.
I'm so angry.
I was like, I think my favorite is probably like the bar theme, but it honestly reminds me. I'd say the best songs from Persona 5 are like the lower, like chill ones. So maybe we just have different opinions, bro.
Here's some
I think it
trivia
really
about
just depends.
alcohol.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, wouldn't it be funny if I in the middle of the podcast, like, I had some sudden trivia to drop on you guys? Wouldn't that be funny?
You should do Atlas trivia. Like, we should like record 3 of them right now, and then like you'll place them whenever.
Ooh, and you go, now that you finished your drink.
Now that you finished this part of the podcast, I know this is sudden, but here's some Atlas trivia. Yeah, we should record these like later, and you guys can like send them to me. That'll be funny.
It's because you don't even have any trivia. You're blank. You're a blank slate.
Well, what I was gonna do is be like, guys, wouldn't it be like funny if I like had some trivia right now, and you'd be like, yeah, like what do you got? And I'd be like, well, I mean, it would be funny if I had any.
Did you know that Atlas is the man who hold the whole world on his back?
And that actually his name was spelled with 2 A's instead of 1 A and a U?
Oh, okay. I thought you meant 2
Anyway.
A's as in like the start of his name. I was like, I don't fucking know.
That's not what I meant at all.
Okay, as a whole, I think we've discussed every little... Wait, Drew, you said you had a certain thing to say about the bar patrons.
No, that's what I was going to say is my stupid little bit. But can we also just talk about the fan service in the bar? How they have the little plushies on the bar of all the Persona mascots? They have Koromaru, the doggy from Persona 3, and then they have Teddy and Morgana. And then in the corner above the piano, they have the emblem, this weirdo school emblem from Persona 3 that's just like hanging up above the piano. And there's probably a bunch of stuff that I haven't even mentioned. And you can even go over to like the jukebox and just play a bunch of Persona music. It's fucking cool.
Literally dumb.
That is one thing where when the chef arrived, he's like, I put my song in the jukebox. You should listen to it. I'm like, cool. And I go over to the jukebox, and since he didn't tell me what his song is, I looked through everything and I couldn't find it.
I was the same. I was like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that says new, but I haven't touched this at all. I don't know which one it is. So I have no idea what his song is either.
Damn.
I bet Drew's version of him probably died.
Probably. I don't
he
even
didn't
know
save
who you're
anybody at
fucking
the end.
about.
No, he's a character who you only talk to in like the Nightmare. He's the guy who always hangs out with like the oil baron, like golden sheep guy. He's the guy who like sings sometimes.
I did talk to him.
And
I did talk to him, yeah.
Like him and the oil baron guy only show up if you talk to them every single time that they're there at the landing, and then they'll actually show up and you'll get a trophy for completing their quest.
That's interesting. Huh, I probably should have done that then. I thought they were boring, so I stopped talking to them.
I really, really liked the golden sheep. I loved how he kept calling Vincent, was it horns or something? Or no, curls. He's like, oh yes, curls, there you are. I thought that was really endearing. I really liked their dynamic.
Even if I'm not crazy about like a lot of the characters in this game, like a lot of the dialogue quirks I actually really do respect. Like I like a lot of like the little bits in the writing, I think, more so than maybe a lot of the content itself. I think something that I can't believe we haven't talked about is when you go in the confessional and you talk to Astaroth and Vincent's like, so can you like send me the fuck up already? He's like, maybe I could if you would just go sit down.
That's
so
dude,
fucking
how are
funny.
you so good at this, Drew?
It's really not that hard. I just have to pitch my voice up a little bit. That's all the guy's doing.
That was fucking pitch perfect, unlike the movie. That was so good. It's hysterical. And I will say, again, it's impressive as we were talking. Like, this is a small little tidbit of dialogue. Very small. Who cares, right? Every single time, not only does Troy Baker have a new line, but as does fucking... You know who plays this, by the way? Yuri Lowenthal, who plays the Spider-Man.
Yuri Lowenthal? Holy shit, that's crazy.
Astaroth, and Toby. So I was kind of right with the Toby thing in a way. But it's crazy. Yeah, Yuri and Troy have unique lines every single stage. And I think the ones earlier on are the most funny because it literally is just like, hey, what's going on? Sit down. I'm like, oh, okay. Hey, are you gonna take me up? What's happening? Would you stop asking me and sit down already? Like, it's so funny.
It's so goddamn. I love it. I love it because, especially early on, yeah. Because Vincent's like, dude, I'm like fucking scared for my life. Could you just tell me a little bit of what's happening? He's like, shut the fuck up. Like, just the amount of rage he brings is so fucking funny because it's so uncalled for.
Hey, is this the part where you're supposed to ask questions? I will once you sit down.
Hey, you're finding it now, Dork.
Oh shit, I am.
Yeah, you're working on your impression.
My Astaroth, hell yeah.
Dueling Astaroths.
Dueling Astaroths. So is this an in-joke?
Well,
yeah, I think this is a new in-joke for the podcast. Video editing Dork is going to put a cool graphic on screen says dueling Astaroths for all the video viewers out
actually,
there now.
Hey.
I told you, sit down first.
I will once you sit down.
We can talk once you sit down.
Maybe I could if you would just go sit down.
How many times do I have to tell you, sit down?
Just have a quick look. I think Astaroth might be the name of a character from Soul Calibur, but I might be getting that wrong.
Yeah, you can just put that on screen.
Sure. On the whole,
let's wrap up
and end this podcast. How would we say
Dork,
feel?
Sorry, please start that over. I talked over you.
Sure. So as a whole, let's try to get to the end of the podcast here in one piece and have our grand conclusions right now. Okay. I will let Dave start with the grand conclusions on Catherine Full Body as a whole, as a game, as a work of art, as an experience.
Well, I enjoyed my time with Full Body more than I remember enjoying my time with Catherine, so that's a plus. Actually, I really like this game. Like you said, Dork, like the climbing mechanic is just so unique. There is no other game that's quite like it. The directions that the story can go in, now I know they're all batshit insane. I would love to actually play through this to get all like the true endings myself. Also because looking at like the wiki of it, like there is some very specific ways to spend your night in the bar that you can get some very individual dialogue that you probably can't hear elsewhere. So it would be kind of cool to kind of flesh out all the conversations and maybe save some more people and find out about that. Although I'm not replaying this game for a long time because I don't think I could handle Vincent being Vincent in the first half again for a long time. But I think it's a really solid game. I mean, Atlas always brings the production value, in terms of sorry, I'm just gonna drink. Mm-hmm.
Hey, that's pretty, on point for Catherine.
It's pretty thematic.
Here's
some more conclusion, as you seem to have finished your glass.
In terms of the art, the animation, the voice acting, the most of the writing. I mean, I find Vincent and all the melodrama really annoying, but I can't say it's badly put together. So really, do you want us to give the game a score, Dork?
Oh, why not? Those are always fun.
I'd give this a solid 3.5 stars, 7 out of 10.
Okay.
3.5 out of 5, 7 out of 10. That is higher than you gave MGS, I believe. I think you gave that a 3, right?
Yeah.
Dave thinks Catherine Body is better than MGS1 confirmed.
All right, Drew?
Yeah, I kind of agree. But I think the more I think about it, the more it's kind of like the setup for a lot of what Catherine accomplishes is better than like the end result, Because some of the endings are just like, you just sit there and you're like, what the fuck was the point of, with me and Dave's route, it's like, where the fuck did Rin go? Like that whole plot line just disappeared off the face of the earth, and our stories are
Literally.
like less cohesive as a result. Yeah, literally disappeared off the face of the earth. But obviously, like, that's what happens when you jam a third route into something that already had a bunch of endings. And also, like I said, when discussing the gameplay, the base gameplay is really great, and a lot of the twists they come up with are really fun, but I'm not at a place where I'm just like, oh yeah, I can just like go about my business and plow through all of these puzzles. There were a lot of places where I like struggled and it was really like banging my head against a wall. I think like Catherine definitely is like a very good game, even if it is a little bit underbaked in some areas or like just becomes very frustrating from certain perspectives. I think it definitely is a good game, and I think the style really carries it. I think the overall structure really carries it for what it is. Even if I personally have issues with it, like I think they did kind of like nail a pretty good version of this like final product. And I don't really think that they could like fully make like a good sequel to this game, or they could at least try. I don't know like well it would end up being received or if they could come up with anything new, but 3.5, that's probably a good place to put it. 3.5, 7 out of 10. Yeah, that's a good place to put it. I would agree with Dave.
Fair. Well, I'm glad you both enjoyed it. I think if I had to give a rating, I would say Catherine Classic, I would probably give like a 9, and then like Catherine Full Body like an 8.5. I do really like. Again, I just like I love the mechanics so much. It's really fun. Even if I had some struggles with Night 6 as a whole, and then like the latter half of Night 7, like to the point where I even turned like the retry assist on at one point, and then the moment I saw it in action, I stopped. I'm like, okay, I didn't realize you're just going to play for me. So, you know what, screw it. I'll just do everything myself. So I did everything myself. The only thing I looked up was how to do, like, the 10-floor challenge, because that one was still... I kind of wanted that night to be over, because five levels in one night is a lot. I do think, in terms of the story, it kind of loses steam, and I also would agree that the conclusions, while interesting, like, especially when you see all the endings on your own... It kind of makes you go, you know, well, did the game have to be that long then? I mean, it's an interesting conclusion. All right. Like, in terms of time with, like, the final cutscene, there are some endings where it's almost nothing. And it's like, am I supposed to feel like this was, you know, a horrible ending? Like, I guess so, since there's so many. But then, of course, you want to play the whole game again to see it. Who knows? Because not everything is as smooth as those gameplay sections. So yeah, overall, I really like the gameplay side of things a lot more than the choicey anime visual novel half. But even that is executed really well in terms of like the visuals and audio, and I all the voice acting and soundtrack is really good too. It's a very fun game, and it's also a very unique game too. So I feel like it was a really good pick for this podcast, especially coming after Pikmin now too, as we've drawn the the comparison to as well earlier. So that's a wrap. We've now talked about Catherine Full Body, not Demon Souls.
That's a future episode.
Yes.
We'll get there.
And yeah, I appreciate you guys like sticking in. This was a little bit longer than I expected, but I think it'll be. I mean, I'm guessing at this point we always expect around 3 hours.
I'll just say before we sign off that next episode is my pick now because I lost the rock paper scissors. But we'll be playing the Secret of Monkey Island.
I legitimately am like really looking forward to that one. Yeah, this will be a fun time.
I'm looking forward to it because I know it's a genre that is so Dave coded. Like, I don't think me and Drew would really choose like a point and click adventure game a lot. So I'm not really familiar with it in the first place. But I also know it isn't that long, and that gets me real excited.
Yeah, maybe we can crank these the fuck out for once.
Well,
right?
Let me just explain why I chose this game. Also, to whet your appetite for next time, is that yes, I wanted. It's actually similar to why I picked Chrono Trigger. I want to pick games to start off with that are emblematic of my favorite genres. Genres that maybe you both don't play as much. But I'm also cognizant of that. I want to pick a game that is a very good introduction to the genre. So like Chrono Trigger, I think, is a great introduction to being an RPG, JRPGs, it also happens to be one of the best ones, I think. So it's rare that those two things line up. But The Secret of Monkey Island is, as point-and-click adventure games go, because the genre has a lot of negatives associated with its design, and I think Monkey Island dodges a lot of them, but it's also a very fun game in terms of humor and character. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if you both enjoy the gameplay as well as the characters, or just I'll be interested to hear your thoughts.
Great.
Yeah,
I am extremely excited, and I think Drew is too. Well, with all that out of the way, we can now close out this episode. Here's my outro. Ready? It looks like Vincent... I'm kidding. I don't have an outro for this, but we appreciate you listening this far into the podcast. And thanks for listening. This has been Post-Game Clarity with Dave, Dork, and Drew, where after the game...
comes the Vincent.
Edge.
Edge. Edge. Edge. Edge. Edge. Edge. Edge.